I'd like to welcome each and every one of you this evening to tonight's board meeting on this Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. And we'll begin with an invocation by Pastor Will E. Watkins II of the Greater Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Church, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Most heavenly gracious Father, we thank you today, God, for one more day. Father, we thank you today that you woke us up this morning on purpose, for a purpose. And God, we thank you today for this city council, these leaders. God, we thank you that you would lead them, cause them to lead with wisdom, integrity, and grace. Father, we understand that your greatest concern is for your people. So God, I pray today that as they lead in integrity. And God, if they lead with a righteous heart, I think that this city will never be without, and the people will never be without. Father, I thank you for the city of Hot Springs. I pray, God, that your blessing would always be upon them as we seek to do what's right. God calls us to serve the people with your heart, with your eyes, with your mind. And as we go through this meeting today, Father, we ask that it be with wisdom, that we have hearts to listen, we have hearts to have meaningful discussion, and at the end of the day, that your name would be glorified and your name would be praised and your people would be blessed. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. And glory to God.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business?
Mayor, there is one item, agenda item number 2, that pertained to acceptance of a grant. We did not make it through this particular preliminary round. We'll try again later. So this item for tonight would be moved. If we could remove that, please.
Okay, is there
I move to remove that from the
a
agenda.
motion to remove item 2, seconded by Director Webb? All in favor of amending the agenda with the removal of the Resolution R-25-18, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
I move to approve the amended agenda.
We have a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Director Webb. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda as amended is approved. Now we'll consider the approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting of January 21st, 2025. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director Webb, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. Tonight we receive our economic development report, and providing that today is Mr. Cole McCaskill. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, directors. First of all, Gary wanted me to profusely apologize. The Chamber's legislative reception is tonight in Little Rock. He wanted me to apologize for scheduling that in conflict with this meeting. Of course, the City of Hot Springs is always a great participant in that event, and I know you guys are sad to miss it, and they're missing you at the event in Little Rock as well. Last time we gave a report was on January 14th, just 3 weeks ago, so this will be relatively short. Last time I was here, I talked about how we were going down to Dallas to the big retail commercial development show. Gary Jackson and I did that last week. We had some very productive meetings and conversations with lots of Texas developers and developers in other states and Arkansas as well that are interested in Hot Springs. You know, it's a very friendly environment. I think Hot Springs and Visit Hot Springs does a lot of advertising in the Dallas market, so everybody in Dallas and Fort Worth knows where Hot Springs is. In fact, I'd say probably the majority of the folks we talked to had been here within the last 12 months. So it's a much easier sell when the town is familiar. Sometimes when we go to other states and events and we have to explain where Hot Springs is on the map, it's not such a friendly sale. So we're able to build off of that tourism that we have in Hot Springs and hopefully get some development out of that as well. Everybody down there knows that our economy is strong in Hot Springs. That's great. Everybody wants to be here. The biggest constraint is probably real estate, available buildings or land. There's not a whole lot of land left along the major commercial corridors for development, so that's some of the conversation topics that we had, but very, very encouraged by that. Lots of follow-up meetings and work for me over the next few months to try to recruit some more of that investment to Hot Springs. Since our last meeting, the Majestic Committee's been very busy, lots of emails and texts. The group has met 2 weeks ago and meets again later this week as well. Last week, the Chamber hosted its annual banquet, which many of you guys attended. I just want to give a congratulations formally to Man of the Year, Dennis Berry, Woman of the Year, Tammy Browning, Large Business of the Year, Arvest Bank, Small Business of the Year, Steamatic. The Chairman's Award went to Justin Nicholas at Gross Funeral Home. Organization of the Year was OCYFS. Rising Star of the Year was Sarah Hutzel from Arvest Bank. Volunteer of the Year is Cora Jones. And Ambassador of the Year was Gina Rockwell at the Community Service Awards last week. On January 17th, the two Garys and Amanda Porter started planning draft day for this year. Later that day, we had a meeting with a new business prospect. The city manager was involved in that meeting. On the 21st, we had a visit with US Vanadium, talking about some of their plans for the future. On the 22nd, Gary Troutman and I met with AEDC's international business team. They have 2 people in Korea, 1 person in Japan, 1 person in Europe, and a manager of international business in Little Rock. We actually got to meet with them in person and talked about what Hot Springs has to offer. We talked about the sister city and some other opportunities. Later that day, I had a meeting with Heartland Forward, which is the Walton's economic development think tank group, about a new program for small manufacturers. On the 23rd, Gary Jackson was the featured speaker at the graduation ceremony for Gateway Allied Health, which is a local healthcare nurses training organization. On the 27th, we had 2 different meetings with 2 different new business prospects, one that has a property under contract here in Hot Springs and another that already owns a piece of property in Hot Springs. On January 28th, the 2 Garys met with Bill Ritter at the college to talk about the new workforce building that will be built out there. And then yesterday, we hosted a meeting with a possible new workforce training provider, and the city manager was involved in that meeting as well. So that brings us up to today. Report for the last 3 weeks. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Cole? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to ask, when we get the reports that Gary sends to us, can we also get a copy of the financial reports?
I suppose so, yes.
Thank you.
I'll relay that message to him for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
This time we'll hear from our very own Mr. Bill Burrow for the city manager's report. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Of course, staff, we're closing out 2024. We're kickstarting 2025. We've got several goals that the board has set for us for 2025. We're rolling those out, getting those projects going. We've got quite a bit still happening from 2024. One of those is parking. We've got one of those items on the agenda tonight, but that is moving forward. It is progressing a little slowly on some of the items that we've got to still knock out there, but it is progressing. I want to talk about the water plant. Water plant's coming along very nice. We're still on track for that to come online later at the end of this year. We're probably, I would say, 65% complete with the plant itself. It's all under roof now. At some point, we'll be holding another tour to go out and see the plant to see how far along it's come. I know we've got a full agenda tonight. I want to recognize some of our new hires. Noah Erickson with the Hot Springs Police Department in our criminal intelligence tech. Mason Scott was promoted to Hot Springs Fire Department driver. Chris McClone was promoted to Hot Springs Police Department, Officer First Class. And then we had some helmet ceremonies. Osbel Angulo, Grant Gunkel, and today Jackson Brannon received their helmets. That's a really big deal to go from a yellow fire helmet to a black fire helmet. It represents about 18 months of training in a probationary status, and really what they learn from that 12th to the 18th month really makes a difference in what they're able to do on the force. And once they finish that 18th month, they get that black helmet and that patch on the front of their helmet. They know that they're ready to move in and not only protect each other, but protect all of us. So really, really pleased to see 3 of these new firefighters gain their helmets and join the family that we have at our Hot Springs Police Department. We've had quite a bit of training, many teen driving rodeos coming up over at Union Missionary Baptist Church from 10 to noon on Saturday, February 15th. This is a free event for teen drivers, soon-to-be teen drivers, to have guided educational opportunities to learn licensing law, sharing the road with semi-trucks, distracted driving, mock traffic stops, and much more. I don't know if they'll have the beer goggles over there that day or not, but really good event. You don't have to sign up for it. However, the day of, you can pre-register at 9:30, and that starts at 10 to 12. Again, it's at Union Missionary Baptist Church at 219 Gulfa Street. We've got a new playground over at Kimberly Park. If you get an opportunity, please take advantage of going over to that park and seeing that new playground. It's one that replaces one that was there for a couple of decades, and really a nice addition to the park. And then I want to talk about our new salt dome that salt domes aren't really the things that you're most proud about, but if you're in the street and you have winter weather coming, you love these new salt domes. And we've been trying to get another one of these. We've got one, holds about 300 tons of salt. And what we've learned over the past several years, we don't have enough to really store what we need. And if we get that second or third storm, we don't have what we need to be able to fight that and get people back on the road. So we installed a new salt dome this past week. It's got another 300 tons of salt, bringing us to about 600 tons of salt. We've got our brine machine, and I think you saw what it would do over the last event we had. I'm going to leave you with this. We had 2 warming shelters at the Community Resource Center in January. It lasted 18 days in 2 different events. And the primary purpose of the shelter is, to protect people from that bitter, life-threatening temperatures. We had 289 individual volunteers, 316 registered participants served, 108 prescriptions were filled for 39 people, 38 different organizations, churches, restaurants, and businesses participated. We had 125 separate names that made donations, and that doesn't include what came in online. Some of those ancillary results, other than having 100 to 120 people able to come in out of those temperatures that were life-threatening temperatures in this last go. We had 12 individuals that they were able to get into a rehab institution. 10 found housing, permanent housing. 3 entered Levi. We had 5 united with families. Some of those were out of town. They just needed assistance to get back to their family unit. So we were able to reunite 5 with their families. There were 2 cars that they helped with repairs. This was needed to keep these 2 individuals in their job and be able to continue to work. We had 6 that actually found employment during this time, 5 in chem-free housing and drug aftercare. We had 8 that received IDs or birth certificates. That's one of the biggest things we see out there in this population, if it's unsheltered, is being able to get an ID. You can't get an ID without a Social Security card. Can't get a Social Security card without a birth certificate, and it just goes back. But we've got people over there that run these kind of assessments and able to help in these areas. We had 9 veterans that we identified and were able to serve. So just really want to shout out to all of those that took part in the Community Resource Center. We should have a director on staff here in the next couple of weeks. We're making that decision now. We had, I think, 75 or 85 applicants for that position. We interviewed several. Denny's made the decision on the hire, and we'll be announcing that soon. And we'll continue to see this center continue to grow. We've got a few more things we need to do there to bring it into where we've actually got a day use center. I don't know that we'll ever grow into that overnight. We'll see. The main thing is that we're able to have congregate feeding with the Jackson House inside, have a place where we can have warming shelters, cooling shelters, and have programs and assessments and other nonprofits coming in to help in making a difference in a lot of these lives. So with that, Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board for our city manager? Thank you. This time we'll hear from individual directors regarding announcements of upcoming events. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like the audience and the public to be aware and remind you it is tax time to file our income taxes. And to help with that, the AARP Foundation is providing tax aid between February 3rd and April 15th between 8:30 in the morning till 12:30 p.m. This service is being offered free at the Garland County Library, which is located at 1427 Malvern Avenue. They're certified volunteers certified by the IRS to assist you, and it's based on a first-come, first-served basis. And to be in that day's service time, you need to be there by 11:30. They can't take anyone else to make sure they service everybody. So you can visit the local county library, and you can also check them out on gclibrary.com, and there is a spot you can check for the AARP free tax aid. Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to share with everybody the US 97 Home and Outdoor Show this Friday and Saturday, February 7th and 8th. We'll be at the Hot Springs Convention Center, which is 134 Convention Boulevard. Admission for this show is $5 per person, and the times both days is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The home show is the place to find ideas and concepts to make your home even better. US 97 Home Show, Friday and Saturday, February 7th and 8th. Thank you.
Any additional announcements? Director Dobbs-Smith.
Yes, I'm really excited. I know we all are aware of it, but I'm not sure if the public is. There's a free tenant certification training workshop that the Cooperative Christian Ministries is putting on. If you're trying to get a place to rent and you're not sure where to go, or the landlords maybe don't want to talk to you, if you have that certificate that you get from completing this training, it really helps open that door. The landlords helped with coming up with this program, as well as the tenants. And I think it's a really important thing to do if you've been, the housing market is tight, and this just helps give you a little leg up edge for getting a place to live. Thank you, Mayor.
Director Holliday.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few. One, I'm going to give an announcement from Emergent Arts. Usually I don't do that, but my staff submitted it, so kudos to them. But this Saturday on February 8th from 1 to 4, we have lantern painting. It's right now, it is the Lunar New Year was on January 29th, and so we are asking for a $5 donation to paint lanterns. However, if someone cannot afford that, they're welcome to come and paint a lantern. These lanterns will then be displayed during the Lantern Festival on February 14th at 5 p.m. at Watkins Park. It'll be up for the weekend, and it's a really beautiful display, a partnership we do with the city. And last year we had over 100 lanterns painted by the community, anywhere from 3-year-olds all the way up. So please, if you'd like to come by Emergent Arts at 341 Whittington this Saturday to paint, we'd love to have you. I also want to remind everyone it's Gallery Walk Week this Friday. February 7th from 5 to 9 is our monthly gallery walk. So please patron or just go visit some artists and galleries. And finally, keeping with the arts, Wednesday night poetry this week actually is the 36th anniversary of Wednesday night poetry, which means there's 1,880 weeks in a row nonstop. It'll be held at Collective Coffee at 110 Central at 6:30. That's something that our community is super proud of. It's not something any other community in the United States can say, that they've had such a long-running open mic, so we're real proud of that. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Any additional announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. These are of a routine nature and do not merit individual discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We got Director Dobb Smith. Was it Director Holliday? Did you make the second? Director Garcia made the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have a couple items under old business, and I'll ask the city attorney to read by title Resolution R-24-142.
Resolution R-24-142, a resolution upholding the decision of the Transportation Advisory Committee and issuing Mr. Timothy Richard Zaleski a permanent ban from Hot Springs Intercity Transit Services. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Webb,
Second.
by Director Dobb Smith. And Mr. Lance Spicer, Deputy City Manager, will provide the staff report. Welcome.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This item comes to you after, as you can tell from the title, this was actually tabled at your August 6th board meeting that indicated to have a 6-month table of this particular item. And as the title indicates, it does consider a permanent ban of Mr. Tim Zaleski from the Hot Springs Intercity Transit services. That would be fixed route and paratransit. There's a long list of dates and activities that have gone on in your board action request form. I do not intend to move through all of those. I'll move through a few of the key dates and provide a little bit of an update on some of the things that have transpired since August the 6th. But really, this all stems from actions that occurred way back in May 14th of 2020. For the viewing public and everyone here, that on that date, Mr. Zaleski did punch a transit driver on route. In doing so, they did endanger not only the driver but also the passengers. So during that time, Mr. Zaleski was removed from transit services, the use of those services, and additionally, there was, as you can see from your packet, there was a couple other things that occurred at that time. He did face court proceedings. He did serve some time for those actions, and there's a gap in the dates there, though. But basically, from May 2020 until May of 2023, Mr. Zaleski had essentially left the community. So, not using the services, the no contact orders between the driver and Mr. Zaleski had expired. And as you move into 2023, Mr. Zaleski's caretaker, Miss Candy Farmer, had reached out to our transit director, Keith Jones, to determine if Mr. Zaleski could in fact use the transit services. There was a intake hearing provided by Mr. Jones to determine if Mr. Zaleski was fit to use the services. That time, Mr. Jones did make the determination that he could, with some stipulations that if any further transgressions did occur, that he could be possibly and likely permanently removed from and banned from those transit services. Following that meeting, October in 2023, Mr. Zaleski did have interaction with the office manager there at Transit Services, profane interaction, and in doing so, Mr. Zaleski was removed from those services due to that interaction. So we fast forward to May of 2024. Mr. Zaleski is attempting to use the services, and in doing so, Mr. Jones does visit with his transit staff. He determines that in the best interest of the riders and the drivers that Mr. Zaleski not utilize those services, so he did issue a ban to Mr. Zaleski. In doing so, there was a Transportation Advisory Committee hearing held later that year, and the Transportation Advisory Committee did, in fact, uphold that ban, which is what brings this forth to you all. Ms. Farmer did make an appeal of that determination from Transportation Advisory, and in doing so, that's what brings this item to your for your consideration. A couple things to consider with this item. You have a couple options. Currently, this is a ban of Mr. Zaleski for using those fixed route and paratransit services. That's one option. An additional option would be for Mr. Zaleski to utilize paratransit services, or for Mr. Zaleski to utilize fixed route. Paratransit is a service that is utilized by individuals with disabilities, and that is an origin to destination service. So when I say that, I'm talking about if an individual has difficulty getting to a bus stop, getting to whatever that destination may be, that's grounds for using paratransit. Mr. Zaleski has said that he does have the ability to use fixed route. In the past, he has said that he does have that. But at any rate, in doing so, that's what the paratransit service would be, but he would not be eligible to use paratransit services from his residence, because he does live at 100 High-Rise, and that is located at a bus stop, an accessible bus stop. And generally speaking, if his destination is not at an accessible bus stop, that would be grounds to use paratransit. But in using paratransit, we want to make sure that we're cognizant of the service itself. That is more of a one-to-one type of interaction, driver and passenger. So, but as I said earlier, Mr. Zaleski generally would only be eligible to use paratransit kind of on a trip-by-trip eligibility. Whereas with fixed route, if the board so chooses to have him use fixed route is a bus on route, on schedule. There are multiple riders. It's drivers as well. Likely the interaction between the driver and passengers, you have others available there. Whereas the paratransit, it is in fact a one-to-one interaction. So those are a couple of your options that you have. And I think as part of the board's discussion at the agenda meeting, you'd ask for a little bit of an overview of the transit system, just kind of how it operates. So fixed route and paratransit. And I don't want to take up too much time because I know we do have a couple individuals signed up to speak. And but overall, fixed route system, as I said, that is a bus on route. That's the most typical type of service. They operate on a scheduled service at bus stops. Currently, the city has 195 bus stops, and of those, you have approximately 40 shelters. That number is growing. The fare for using fixed route is $1.25 per ride, and our totals for last year, we had approximately 143,000 trips across that 2024. Those are generally heavy-duty transit buses, hold approximately 30 people. Sometimes you utilize cutaway buses, those hold approximately 20 people. So that's kind of the fixed route service. The paratransit is a complementary service, and it is used paratransit vans. Generally speaking, you're only talking about max capacity, 2 to 3 individuals, wheelchair possibility. That fare is $2.50. Total paratransit eligible clients that we have, 159. And 2024 paratransit trips, 6,800. Generally speaking, paratransit trips, those are our dialysis patients. Those are individuals that go on a weekly basis, and during inclement weather, that is a service that does not stop. So I think as far as the fixed route, we do have 3 routes. Route 1 basically takes you along Central Avenue, Higdon Ferry. Route 2, Hobson, Albert Pike, National Park College. Route 3 is Park Avenue, Malvern Avenue, all the way to National Park Medical Center. Now, as far as the the service in itself, we generally fixed route and paratransit. Paratransit is complementary to that service. It does function somewhat like a private taxi, but it is not a private taxi. It is public transportation, and that generally is our Hot Springs Intercity Transit that we've had in place since about 1980.
Are there any questions for Mr. Spitzer from the board? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the eligibility for the paratransit, if a person has any disability, they would qualify?
They would. There's an application process that is reviewed by a medical professional, certified that they do have a disability that would make them eligible for that service. And that application is submitted to the City of Hot Springs to process and consider.
And were any other transportation options reviewed that might be able to assist, such as the point origin and destination from the CSO office transportation and/or SCAT buses?
I'm not aware of that particular review by the applicant, but those are certainly options.
Thank you.
Any additional questions of board members to Lance? Thank you. We have a number of people who have signed up to speak on this item. We'll begin with Troy Robinson. Mr. Robinson, come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
I'm sorry, name, address, and,
Well, are you from Benton?
yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Name and address, please.
Okay, Troy Robinson, Benton, Arkansas, 1203 Kings Court. And appreciate your time. Be short as possible. The synopsis of what brought us here and the various procedures that we've been through seems a little bit off, but basically it's there. The reason we're here and did make the appeal is because the rules for the transit and the faults that you can have to cause an issue where you could not ride were not followed properly to begin with, to not allow Timothy to use the service. And Timothy is disabled. He does have some a traumatic brain injury as well as some physical problems. There was only one driver that he's ever had a problem with, and that driver is no longer, I guess he's retired or whatever from the service since then. He's friends with several other drivers and has been for many years. He does have some issues, but he's aware of those and has been working on it. His medications have been changed. He's under the care of a physician, so we try and stay on top of everything that he has to deal with. And it would be very helpful to him to be able to use the services again. The one instance was a bad situation, and the instance with in the office with the office manager, he just did not understand why they were saying he was ineligible, and that's to use the paratransit when he was trying to make an application. And he shouldn't have done it by himself, but he did, because he likes to try and do what he can. And I think we've got that sorted out. There's been another application made, but several months ago, I think shortly after our last meeting, but we've never received anything in writing saying that he could or could not use that, the paratransit. So, and that's basically all I have. We appreciate your reviewing this, and sincerely ask that you will give consideration to him being able to use the services again.
Okay, Troy, let me see if anybody's got any questions.
Sure,
Anybody have
certainly.
questions for Mr. Robinson? Director Garcia?
You stated that the individual does have a disability due to a brain injury?
Yeah, he has a traumatic brain injury, and he also has some physical ability, not able to walk as normal. He does pretty well, but if he has to go more than, say, a quarter or a half a mile, then it does become laborious for him.
And that information could be submitted with the application for use of the paratransit
Yes, and I believe it
service?
has been submitted with the application.
So an application has already been
Yes,
submitted?
ma'am. An
Okay.
application was submitted shortly after our meeting in August that we had with you, and we've never received any answer back. Ms. Farmer's tried to follow up on it and still hasn't received any information back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, back in August or thereabouts when this came before the board, there was discussion about, bus, needing to access the bus to get to the grocery store or pharmacies and whatnot. So how is that occurring today?
Well, he has had some friends that have gone out of their way to assist him. Sometimes Candy comes from Benton with her husband and helps him with some of the extra things that he needs, like a large shopping trip or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy Farmer? Please come forward and restate your name and address, please.
Do I need to pull this down?
Yeah,
Kinda
please.
short. I'm Candy Farmer.
Candy,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
write very well on that back there. My address is 1740 Yorkshire in Benton, and I appreciate y'all talking about this problem again. Tim, I did apply for the paratransit. I did talk to Mr. Keith once and asked about the application, it was around Thanksgiving. And he said he would get it within the week, and I never got anything in writing at all and never heard from him anymore. And I haven't asked back, to be honest. And Tim, we did not apply for any other SCAT or any of that or look at that. We should have, but we didn't. His friends have been helping him. He does have to pay them gas money, which is anywhere from $5 to $10 each time that he goes and comes back. So it adds up with his small amount that he does get each month. And we're just here in hopes that this time he can ride the bus. If he needs to be under probation or whatever, he can do that. He's not been in any trouble for the last 6 months. And he is under, as Troy said, doctor's care, and I think he'll do well. Because he really needs to ride so he can go to the store without paying people and using that money that he would use normally for his meds, or not necessarily his meds, but his food and things like that, so.
Any
Any
questions?
questions?
Any questions of Ms. Farmer? Thank you.
We appreciate y'all, thank you.
Mr. Tim Zaleski? Please, did you want to speak on?
Hello,
Hi, just restate your name, please.
Timothy Zaleski.
Yeah. You signed up to speak on this. I know you're the individual this is all about, so
Yeah.
anything you'd like to offer that Ms. Farmer or
Um,
Mr. Robinson?
I'd like to say that I was told that last meeting that we had here, that if I went 6 months without causing any trouble, anything with the drivers, or even went and stood at a bus stop, that I might be able to ride the bus again. So I've followed by all your rules and in short, see what's wrong with me? Let me tell you what's wrong with me. 26 years ago in San Diego, I was in a bad car accident. I was in a coma for 32 days. So I am disabled, I'm handicapped. I've been in a wheelchair, I've used a cane for 10 years. Here I am 26 years later and I can walk all right. Like Candy said, I pay $5 to $10 to go anywhere. I live in the high-rise tower over here, and just to get up to the Walmart on Malvern takes me $10. Somebody charged me $10 to do that, and by the end of the month, I live on $500 per month. That's everything. $500 to me to buy food, not rent stuff, that's all taken care of, but for personal use, $500. And paying people to take me anywhere because I need places to go, like whether it be Walmart or the library or the doctor or to get a haircut. All those things cost money, and I just run out of money rather quickly. So I'd really appreciate the fact if I could ride the bus again.
Okay.
I have no problem with any of the drivers, and I had no problem with this gentleman that I popped or punched, but I just felt he wasn't being right with me that day. Being handicapped, he told me what happened that day is I tried to get on the bus, and he goes, "Put on your mask." And I was like, right after bed, I was like,
Excuse me, just a second. You don't have to go through that again.
Do board directors have any questions for Mr. Zaleski? Thank you.
thank you very much.
Discussion amongst directors?
Is that all the speakers?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That completes those that signed up. Director Garcia?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. I understood that an application had been submitted for paratransit, but at this time, no action's been taken. Is that correct?
Correct.
But with a disability he does qualify for paratransit?
Lance, you want to come back? I think there's different occasions where he would be eligible for paratransit, but others that he wouldn't because he has a bus stop there. If he's going from some place that has a bus stop to a place that has a bus stop, I think those are ineligible for paratransit. But Lance, you want to go through that?
Even with a disability? Yeah.
If, as part of their ADA application, the medical professional does certify that they do have a disability that would make them eligible for using the paratransit service. Just having a disability alone does not necessarily mean that you're eligible to use paratransit services. Really, some of the triggering events are if you're unable to make it to an accessible bus stop. If the bus stop, for example, is your accessible bus stop maybe 3-4 blocks away, and you're unable to make it to that stop from your home to whatever that destination may be, that would be a qualifying type event that would allow you to use the service. So that's paratransit, just merely having whatever that disability may be, mental, physical, etc. That does not necessarily mean that you're eligible to use paratransit. There are some particular qualifying events that make you eligible.
Well, the first speaker stated that there was both of those type disabilities. What is the status of the medical certification on the application that was submitted?
Yes, the ADA paratransit application was submitted in late October, early November, and pending the board's decision on whether the ban was to be upheld, that has been held pending that decision by the board.
So, okay. But if it was medically certified and the board didn't ban paratransit, he could become eligible for paratransit service?
On a trip-by-trip basis, basically, due to where Mr. Zaleski resides at 100 High Rise, there is an accessible stop there located very close proximity to the door. It would really depend on the trip. Generally speaking, that's a little laborious on staff to determine, from High Rise to this, whatever that destination may be, if it is in fact an ADA accessible stop there, or if it is, for example, like a a doctor's office that may be 4 or 5 blocks from that stop. So really, when I say trip by trip eligibility, more than likely, staff would say if you're eligible to ride, just for ease and convenience, you're eligible to use paratransit regardless of where those stops may be. Same goes with fixed route. All buses are ADA accessible. All the buses move along known routes that are generally close to shopping throughout the city. They hit most of the doctor's offices, hospitals, etc. So that's really kind of how we tailor those routes, take you to National Park College, etc.
But the first speaker indicated that it might not be all the time, but that he does have some issues walking. And is that taken into consideration to board at the bus stop where he lives? If he's medically certified that he would have a problem.
Yeah, if that is in fact the issue, to move, and I'm unaware of exactly how far it is from high-rise front door to the stop. Maybe it's 15 yards or so. If that is in fact the issue, then that would qualify them.
For not just by case-by-case basis, but for what the needs were.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Lance, prior to all of this happening, did he make it to the bus stop?
Yes, he utilized fixed route.
He was on
services.
fixed route. Do you have any reason to object to him continuing to use or resuming fixed route?
No, not particularly. That's from a matter of practice. That's staff's preference, just due to the interactions that Mr. Zaleski has had with the drivers. I think fixed route may be a better option if he is in fact still able to utilize it.
So, because the way that I'm reading this, if the board is to vote no on the proposition before you, then the ban is not upheld. And so, wouldn't that mean he goes back to fixed route and/or could apply for paratransit?
Correct.
On a case-by-case basis?
That is correct.
Would you have an objection to that?
No, he's submitted a paratransit application, hasn't been acted on pending this board's consideration. But you're correct. My understanding is that he has always utilized fixed route bus services.
But this is being appealed by the family, or Mr. Zaleski, based upon action on the Transportation Advisory Board?
That's correct. Transportation Advisory did uphold that ban some 6 months ago, but obviously during that time, the board heard the appeal and tabled it, which brings us here today.
Okay, the Transportation Advisory Board hasn't met again on the matter.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Director Garcia, did you have your hand up?
And what was when the staff, you're saying staff wanted to not, to eliminate the ban, and what was the bus drivers?
Generally, the drivers still felt a little uneasy with Mr. Zaleski. The driver that did have the altercation, he has since left employment, retired from the city of Hot Springs. We do have new drivers that may not be familiar with Mr. Zaleski, but a handful of drivers that were tenured during that time. They did have some issues with that, but in doing so, full everything up front, we did tell the drivers that that is the board's consideration to either uphold the ban or not uphold the ban, and they understood that. So the staff's perspective is, if the board is to consider removing the ban from Mr. Zaleski and allow him to use fixed route, obviously the drivers will comply, and we'll take some steps to make sure we keep everybody safe.
And if the ban is removed and there's another incident, then that would go back in place?
Well, there's a passenger code of conduct that has various levels for altercations. Physical violence is a level 3. That immediately moves to a suspension of the services, and you can be suspended for anywhere from 6 months to a permanent ban. So any additional altercations or issues with this particular rider would be the same as if anyone else acted that way.
Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to be seen here as like the bad guy for what I'm about to share with you, because in my heart, I do feel sympathy for Mr. Zaleski and what he's gone through. But I don't think I can allow the sympathy that I have for one person to override the safety and the protection of the hundreds of employees that we have for the city and the thousands of residents and tourists and visitors that come to our city to ride bus and other transit services that are provided. The facts of this matter are, A, he hit an elderly man who was a bus driver, a city employee for the city of Hot Springs. That city employee also went to the hospital with visible signs that he sustained from being hit. The Category 3 on the Passenger Code of Conduct clearly states that physical altercations of any kind in any action which prevents the safe operations of the transit system and related facilities could result in a permanent ban. The victim here is the bus driver. He is who was hit. And the safety of the passengers on board that bus, that's the victims too in this matter. I feel like we've got to look out for the safety of those passengers and for the safety of our city employees. And in this case, if we have someone who has violated that trust and violated this code of conduct, that person should be banned. And that's where I stand. I support our Transportation Advisory Committee's recommendation for the permanent ban, and that's how I will vote.
Please, any other comments from board members or any questions of Lance? Okay. Thank you, Lance.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Robinson, did you want to come forward and make another?
Just for a moment, sir.
Please come up to the mic.
In going back, as he expressed, there is different levels, and you can find in the transcripts of when we were meeting with the advisory board and when we were meeting here, the department itself has actually changed the actual facts of what happened in this. And you can go back to the transcripts from the first meeting to the second meeting, and you will see the difference in how they changed that. Mr. Zaleski was suspended for a period of 6 months, okay? He went with that suspension, and after that, he was allowed back on. 1 week later, approximately, when he got to get on the bus, it was the driver that he had had conflict with before. That driver said, "You need to get off my bus," even though Mr. Zaleski had been approved to get back on. Mr. Zaleski obeyed what that driver said, got off the bus, and just let it go, okay? Then, that driver went back and complained to I guess Keith, or whatever, saying that he's not gonna drive the bus. He'll quit before he'll let this guy back on, okay? That is when they decided to ban him again, which is not in the rules, okay? He didn't do anything else on the bus to cause a problem. All he did was follow the bus driver's direction and leave the bus when the bus driver asked him to. Okay, so yes, he did have one offense. Okay, but they just washed all of that out in their transcripts from the very first time that we discussed this problem with the first group before we came here. They changed their information on their transcripts saying that he was permanently banned, which he wasn't. He was allowed back on. He was given permission to get back on, and the bus driver complained, and because of that complaint, Then they decided to take him off again, even though he had committed no additional
Okay.
fault, okay?
Yeah.
Which would, if he'd done an additional fault, then he would have been banned again, up to possibly permanent. But he didn't do so. He respected what the driver told him to do and left the bus, okay? He is capable of doing right, okay? I don't know what caused the first incident. It's amazing that they say that there'll be video of these things, but video from either instance has never showed up, or they say it wasn't available. They said, bus driver said, I never got the information that he was allowed back on the bus. Keith says, well, I don't know if I sent the information on an email or if I told them, okay? But apparently there was some kind of lack of communication, or the bus driver took it upon himself just to let Tim on the bus. But Tim obeyed the driver when he told him to get off the bus. So he's done everything he was supposed to. He paid the price for the first problem, okay? He hasn't had another problem with another driver since then. Thank you.
Director Garcia?
I don't know, is this a city attorney question perhaps, but if the ban is upheld, is this individual still eligible for the application for the, that he has, if he gets medical certification? Is that, does that move forward still?
As it's presented to you, it states that the permanent ban from Hot Springs Intercity Transit Services will be banned.
So it'd be
So-
regardless, fixed route or
Yes.
paratransit.
The only way that gets reinstated is if the board reinstates it.
He was reinstated. They decided afterwards to take him off.
Can that be amended to say fixed route?
Are you asking, could you do something tonight to put him on fixed route?
Well, if we don't uphold this, if we say no,
Right.
that happens.
Right.
But if, instead of all services, can this be amended to say fixed route only?
To ban from mixed route only?
Mm-hmm. So that he could do paratransit if he
If
qualifies on case by case?
Or if he gets medically certified for any of the paratransit trips.
Yes, you could amend it in such a way that that the ban would only pertain to fixed route.
Well, I make that motion to amend accordingly.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to amend Resolution R-24-142 to ban Mr. Zaleski only from the fixed route, but he would be permitted, if qualified, on the paratransit. Is that appropriately stated?
Yes, sir.
Please call the roll.
Can
Oh,
we not discuss
discussion, I'm sorry.
the event? Yeah. Yeah, I have a thought on that. I think I'm with you in concept. However, if we're considering any ban based on safety of our staff and other riders, personally, I think it applies to paratransit and fixed route in any of our transit. And that thinking where Director Garcia is coming from, I believe, is part of why I tabled it. So there could be a little more time to sort of digest this. But however, if we have any concern that Mr. Zaleski would be a danger to anyone in our system, I think personally, I feel like that's for all transit options. So that's just my thought to the group there.
Director Beard?
Yes, I agree with what you're saying, Director Holliday, but this situation is a little different from most because of the brain injury. I think that because he's been off of or unable to ride public transit and having to suffer the consequences of cutting into his very meager monthly income, I think he could take a, I think he's had time to think about his actions. I mean, it's really hard to say because there's a brain injury, but you can tell that for me, it looks like he wants to do better. And it's a really difficult situation. I understand that the drivers or other people have been at risk, but simply when I've worked with children that had brain injuries, you could do something as small as just changing the setting, and that makes a world of difference. So I think if we did, try this, and for him to understand, you don't have any more options. Like if you mess this one up, that you're just back to paying for your rides wherever you have to go.
Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, are we voting on the amendment to this, but not on this recommendation?
The amendment on the floor is that the ban would be for fixed route only.
And if that passes, that's the end of it?
You've amended it at that point.
That's what you've amended it, and then you vote on what you've amended, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to be clear.
Yes, sir.
Director Garcia?
And that's only if medically certified, all the qualifications, but, and that has to be that the person.
That stands alone, yes.
Yes.
Just to repeat, this vote that we're about to take is just banning the fixed route and that he would be able to ride the paratransit, correct?
Assuming that he meets all the qualifications and the origin and the destination and the ADA and the certification and all of that.
Okay.
Any further questions? Director Dobb Smith?
My understanding is that because of where he lives at the high rise, his medical issue has nothing to do with his ability to ride paratransit. It has to do more with his proximity to the bus stop. So even if he qualified for paratransit, which he probably would, he wouldn't be able to ride it as long as he continues living at the high rise because it's too close to where he lives.
And Lance just stated when I asked the question, if the doctor or medical professional ruled that he was qualified to have problems walking from there at times, that if he certified or she certifies him, that is the difference. Under normal circumstances, yes, but it's whatever qualifications, if he's certified or not. It hasn't got to that point. We don't know what the medical professionals say as far as that. So we don't know if he'd be qualified or not.
Then why is he asking to get on the bus?
He has a brain injury.
But Lance, does, part of the goal here is for Mr. Zaleski, according to him and his support, and Ms. Farmer and Mr. Robinson, is to be able to get to the grocery store. And if we took action today that permanently banned him from the fixed route, but it would authorize him to continue with application on the paratransit, could he take that to Walmart? Take it to Kroger's?
Not based on what I know now, all things that have, the history and past use of fixed route, not particularly, because Walmart, Kroger, etc. The bus stops at the front door, front door of Kroger, front door more or less of Walmart. So those particular trips may not be eligible. But if there is extenuating circumstances, mobility, etc., that does not allow him to get to the stop, does not allow him to leave the bus and get in the store, that'd be something to consider. Generally speaking, when you're talking about paratransit, from an accessible location, so from a location, high rise, for example, housing authority, et cetera, that have those accessible bus stops. They would need to be going to a location that does not have an accessible stop located where that particular rider is able to get to that stop. So I use doctor's offices, generally hospitals. We try to have stops at all hospitals, clinics, et cetera. Some of those are located in such a location and away from the fixed route system that it's a good distance. It's a couple blocks, could be more. So that's kind of the nuances of ADA paratransit versus fixed route.
Well, does this amendment help him at all?
I
I don't see it helping.
I don't know that you can slice it two ways. If he's ineligible to utilize paratransit, then I would say it is not a benefit to him because he would not be using fixed route. But if he's able to use fixed route, the board approves that, and he's shown in the past he's able to use fixed route, that may be a good option for him. And that's not to say that you couldn't move forward with that paratransit application. That's already been submitted, and that's something that we would process. If the board wants to consider removing any type of stipulations on his use of the system, fixed route may be a better option based upon that. But that's kind of for you all to consider if you want him to utilize the system in general, which certainly is your prerogative, or if you want to specifically call out paratransit or fixed.
Well, Director Holliday, she made that motion 6 months ago, and now we still don't have an answer on the paratransit, so. Director Garcia?
Also, it was brought up at the past meeting of options for SCAT. I know they take people to dialysis. They take people, that other places as well, and the CSO transportations. They do point to point. They not just to doctors, but to grocery stores. But nothing was done to look into other options during this time. Is that true?
That was my understanding as well from hearing the applicant.
Any further questions? Director Beard?
So when we vote, this is still the ban for the fixed route?
This is an amendment.
Amendment.
This is the amendment that would only ban him from a fixed route.
I'm going to do the unusual and process. I'm going to ask Mr. Zelinski, do you want to come up and make just a 30-second comment, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd just like to say that for 25 years, I have rode the bus in San Diego and Hot Springs, and I've never had any kind of problem whatsoever except this one. I know what I did wrong. It was wrong. And it'll never happen again. No, I'm friends with some of the other bus drivers, very good friends, and so they have no problem with me riding the bus. And I'd just like to ride the bus again because I have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
I would,
Director Beard?
yes, thank you. I would like if he is allowed to get, oh, never mind, forget it.
Okay, so right now we have a motion to amend. We have a motion and a second to amend that would have a permanent ban on the fixed route, but allow the gentleman to continue to move through the application process for a paratransit approval. Okay. Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
No.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
No.
Webb.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Trustee.
No.
Mayor McCabe.
No. Motion to amend fails. We're back to the original motion on upholding the decision of the Transportation Advisory Committee and issuing Mr. Zelinski a permanent ban from the Hot Springs intercity transit services.
Call the question.
Oh,
We got a second on the call to question?
no, I was going to make another amendment, but she beat
Second.
me to it.
We got, okay, the proper procedures is to have a motion and a second, and then take 5 votes to call the question. So we're not voting on the motion, we're not voting on the resolution, we're just voting on ending debate and going to the vote. So this is a call, the question, call the question, ayes and nays, the way you would normally vote on the motion to basically cease debate. So call the roll, please.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Dobbs Smith,
Aye.
Webb,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday,
No.
Mayor McCabe.
No. The calling the question was approved. Please call the question. Call the roll.
All right, Dr. Dobbs Smith,
No.
Webb,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
No.
Holliday,
No.
Beard,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
No. Motion to permanently ban fails. Next order of business is to consider resolution O-25-04. I'll entertain a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Got a motion by Director Garcia.
Second.
Seconded by Director Dobbs Smith. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I probably need a few
Aye.
more ayes. I
Aye.
think I had 2. And opposed, say nay. We, motion to suspend the rules is approved, and staff, Mr. Lance Spicer, Deputy City Manager, will provide the staff
Mayor,
report.
let me read it for you.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
What is it?
We got-
Point of question. The vote we just took, aye was to uphold the ban,
Correct.
no was to say
not-
not uphold the ban. Correct?
There is no ban
Okay.
There is no ban. 4-3.
of any kind.
We're going to have our city attorney read the ordinance O-25-04.
Ordinance O-25-04, an ordinance providing for downtown resident parking program by amending Chapter 7 of Title 10 of the Hot Springs Code, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion
moved.
by Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Before we have staff presentation, I want to reset the table on where you are. This matter was tabled. At your previous discussions, there was one amendment that was adopted, and that amendment added a second vehicle. That second vehicle would pay the same price, limited to secondary parking, so one in primary, one in secondary, with the parking rates as they are currently in your proposed ordinance, which is your motion, $260 per quarter in primary, $130 per quarter in secondary. There were a number of other amendments that were proposed that didn't make it, and that's why we're here tonight.
Okay, and I know Lance will make it really clear.
Certainly, I'm going to have to get my scorecard out. Yeah, this is another bit of old business from the board. This particular item first came before the board back in December 17th, and the program in which the city attorney kind of highlighted some of the components of it that was brought to you all to consider a resident parking program for basically for individuals, residents living in the downtown area that do not have otherwise off-street parking available. And when we talk about the downtown area, we're talking about Prospect Avenue as you head north on Central Avenue to the Park Avenue and Whittington split. So basically, that kind of core Bathhouse Row, obviously not on the Bathhouse Row side, but that Central Avenue Business District area. So at the December 17th meeting, that this particular item, it it did fail, and the board did ask us to bring it back with some alterations to that January the 7th meeting, and the program in and itself, other than the amendment that was adopted at your previous meeting, adding that secondary vehicle to both zones, same pricing, really is an effort to provide some clarity for the residents living in the downtown area. Really what we have in the downtown area, we have 3 parking zones. We have the primary zone, which is that core downtown. We have the secondary parking zone, which is surface lots, the Exchange Street parking garage, and we have the Washita Avenue priority zone, which is essentially all of Washita Avenue as it branches off Central Avenue. Each has its own rate structure. Priority zone is the only one that has time restrictions. Secondary does not have time restrictions, nor does the Washita Avenue priority zone. But what we're talking about for this particular, for individuals living in the area from Prospect heading north along Central Avenue to Whittington and Park Avenue split. So kind of keep that particular area in mind when we talk about the eligibility for the program. You have to be an owner or lessee of property within that zone that geographical area that I just discussed. Additionally, you can have parking permits for 2 vehicles. And when I talk about the primary zone, the pricing is such that it is $260 per quarter per address. And that comes out to an annual fee of $1,040. So if the board does approve a residential parking program and they do have primary parking, they will also be able to park in any zone. So primary, secondary, the Washita Avenue zone as well. The secondary zone is, as I said earlier, those are some of your off-street surface lots and the Exchange Street parking garage. Those parking rates are set at $130 per address per quarter. That works out to $520 annually for that secondary zone. And as we said earlier, you can have two vehicles per permit, per residential parking permit for those fees. Permit fees are paid in advance and they're paid quarterly. But obviously, I think within your packet, kind of gave you some dates to think about. Obviously, when we brought this forth, it was kind of at the beginning of the year, so we may want to kind of look at, if the board chooses to move forward with it, a logical implementation date. And really, from some updated information from your board's last meeting, there was a bevy of motions and amendments. One that was approved, several motions that did not make it, but they are also listed in your packet. And this is where I'm going to have to get my scorecard out. Director Webb made a motion to amend the rates to have $100 per quarter for the primary vehicle and $50 per quarter for the secondary vehicle. That did die for lack of a second. Director Trusty then made a motion to amend the rates to read $150 per quarter for the primary vehicle and $75 per quarter for the secondary vehicle. And that motion did fail as well. And then shortly thereafter, Director Garcia did table a motion to table, and that was approved, which brings us to this evening. One of the final things that was brought up from staff, to staff anyway, from Director Garcia, was on these the residential parking program for 2025. We're in February, early February, and the direction from Director Garcia was to consider holding these residential parking rates, have the permits be able to be issued, but the rates, the fees associated with them, held in abeyance for 2025 to pick those up in 2026. Really the reason being that those individuals, approximately 8 to 10 are those that are associated with this residential parking program, would have the time to consider and plan for these expenses, and additionally to possibly discuss anything that may come out of that with if they do have a lease with their landlords. They may not have had the opportunity to do that yet. I know we do have several residents that are here this evening that wish to discuss, but really that's kind of the tabled item that came before you, the fees, and then additionally some of those motions that were made, and additionally to talk about some of the things that were brought up at the agenda meeting. So with that, I'll conclude, and if you have any questions, I'll certainly be around.
Any questions of Lance at this time? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Lance, as it reads right now, the residential parking program parameters that were provided to us in the packet, number 2, authorized vehicle parking permits, that has 1 motorized vehicle. Is this saying that, where's the 2? It's got a 1.
It's not there yet. You haven't voted on it
I
as
got you.
amended.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
approved, you approved the
Right, right.
amendment, not the-
Okay. So the amendment hasn't been put in, it's going to be voted on with this too?
Correct.
Okay, that takes care of that question. Thank you.
Sir.
Any further questions of Mr. Spitzer? Hearing none, we'll go, we have a number of people that have signed up to speak. Miss Andrea Hale, please come forward and kind of restate your name, address, and district, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Hale. I live at 122 Central Avenue. I'm in District 1. You have seen my emails over the last few months, so what I'm going to read tonight is kind of a synopsis of those messages already sent with a few other things. I have lived downtown for 6 years, and during this time I've always had the ability to park very near where I live. Downtown residents need to continue to have a secure, reliable parking solution near their homes. As you know, based on the messages I've already sent you, I initially agreed with the proposed fee of $250 per quarter for residential parking permits. I was anxious to have a solution in place so that I didn't have one more thing to worry about. However, after hearing the concerns of other downtown residents, my neighbors, it has become clear that the fee is not widely supported. I now stand with my neighbors in advocating for a lower cost or no cost solution that better reflects the needs of those who live downtown year round. Parking in front of our homes is essential for myself and my neighbors. It is not a luxury. Safety is a major concern for me, especially at night in less trafficked areas. I'm in the area of downtown that gets very little foot traffic after the storefronts close at 5 p.m. I feel we deserve to continue to have access to our homes just as we always have. Parking at my home in a safe area is as important to me as it is to you at your home. Residents are not taking up long-term parking in a way that disrupts turnover. We come and go just like any other community members. We work, live, and invest in our community, and our presence enhances downtown vitality. We aren't casual visitors, we aren't tourists, we are full-time stakeholders in downtown life, and a low-cost or no-cost permit system would be a reasonable accommodation. Downtown residents are few. There's 8 to 10 of us. So few, but I still don't even know them all because we're spread out. Our need for safe, close, and practical parking is critical. A fair, resident-friendly parking solution will help keep downtown Hot Springs a vibrant and desirable place to live and work.
Any questions of Ms. Hale? Thank you. Oh, Ms. Hale? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Ms. Hale, you did share with us that you stand with your fellow residents there downtown.
Yes.
And their stance is what currently is being suggested at $250 is too high.
Correct.
To pay per quarter. What do you think is fair?
I believe what is fair is what you suggested at the last meeting. $100 per quarter and $50 for primary and $50 for secondary. That's what I think is fair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I have a question.
Oh, Director Dobbs Smith, I'm sorry, thank you.
Do you work from home?
I work from home 2 half-days a week. The rest of the time, I am at my office.
So if we, right now, our cutoff for paid parking is 8 p.m. If we moved it to, say, 5 o'clock, would that help you at all? It's just a question.
I don't feel like that would help me. I feel like that would help people downtown going to Gallery Walk, going to a restaurant, going to poetry night, but I do not believe that that would help the residents, no.
You had stated that most of the businesses close at 5, so that's why I was thinking, because I know a part of this paid program was to free up the parking spaces so they would turn over and the people who were working in the stores wouldn't be parking there.
So
and that was just a small part.
Yes, the area of downtown I live in is not the busiest part. So most of the storefronts do not close at 5, but they are not where I live. On my end of downtown, if you were to drive there past 5 p.m., almost every spot is open to park in, aside from maybe on Wednesday night poetry night. It's not like that in the rest of downtown. So if you're thinking of, let's take Rolando's, say Rolando's towards the center of town, Central Avenue, that type of thing, those spots are generally full, even well past 5 p.m. Down where I live, they are not.
Thank you.
Ms. Hale, what is your occupation?
I am the business office manager at Hot Springs Radiology Services, and I'm also the executive director of the Arkansas Radiological Society.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional,
question.
Director Trustee?
Thank you. Are you a property owner or a
No,
tenant?
I rent.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd read that in one of your emails. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tyler Draper, please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please.
Good evening, y'all. I'll make this really quick here. All right, so I want you to take a moment and assume you're like the lady who just spoke. You go and get into a lease, or you buy a house. You're on a fixed income, and you have to make payments. All right, and then out of nowhere, you got to just start paying for parking. Okay? Money doesn't grow on trees. These people, they have lives and bills too. So to come out of nowhere with this and start this instantly, that can impact people's lives. So what I would ask the directors is to at least wait for these people's lease to be up for a year and then let them reassess if they can handle this fee within their income. All right? On top of that, we have all other sources to raise money to maybe pad for these people who live down there. We just heard earlier from Deputy Lance Spicer. He said we have 195 stops. We have 40 bus shelters and growing. We have 3 transits, or 3 large buses. If the city needs that money so badly, why not advertise on those buses to maybe help out and cover for the money you're going to lose from the residents, if that could so be an option? We just have to take into account, do we want people to live downtown, or do we want them to run away and have nobody living down there? So that's my spill, and I hope y'all would at least take the idea of waiting a year till these leases are done and think of other ways to raise revenue for the city. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Draper? Thank you. Jamie Correa Velez? Please restate your name and address, please, district.
My name is Jaime Correa Vélez, and I live at 122 Central Avenue, apartment B. The United States National Committee of International Council on Monuments and Sites, US ICOMOS, is part of the worldwide ICOMOS network of people, institutions, government agencies, and private corporations who support the conservation of the World Heritage. For over 50 years, U.S. ICOMOS has worked to deliver the best of international historic preservation and heritage conservation work to the U.S. domestic preservation dialogue, while sharing and interpreting for the world the unique American historic preservation system. I am an expert from ICOMOS and the voting member on behalf of Colombia, my homeland, in the International Scientific Committee of Cultural Landscape. The definition of cultural landscape is a heritage site where the human culture shaped its development. Hot Springs National Park downtown is clearly one. Intangible heritage is the collective identity and knowledge of a cultural group embodied in their traditions, arts, practices, and beliefs. In the world of architectural conservation today, valuation of intangible heritage influences decisions regarding regional planning, neighborhood design guidelines like this, building rehabilitation, and even treatment of historic materials. Intangible heritage is dynamic and adds contemporary value in social, educational, and political terms. It holds wisdom and principles passed forward from prior generations. The field of historic preservation must address fundamental questions about cultural sustainability, not just buildings. The living heritage of people deserves due consideration and protection just as much as the tangible products of human activity. Policies are evolving to handle the need, though the difficulty is high because our mechanisms of governance, regulation, and incentives remain tied to older methods based on established practices that did not foresee the present problem. There is increasing attention to intangible heritage, bringing public awareness that intangible heritage is a major component of social identity, plus economic prosperity through heritage tourism, Hot Springs case. At the same time, opportunities for growth and real estate development are immediately identified by investors. Public concern has been expressed in our community meetings about displacement of businesses and residents. This is called gentrification. The concept was named in England and is applicable worldwide. The opportunities for growth and real estate development can be immediately identified by investors and just as quickly perceived and then discussed in public forums as a threat. The threat is the displacement of businesses and residents. So the response is to find ways to mitigate the displacement and the loss of traditional property uses. The agencies of government and most property owners should advocate for a balanced approach that would not block new development projects, including the mix of considerations is the need to maintain and improve heritage tourism as an economic engine, while not supplanting the local economy serving needs of existing residents and businesses.
Sir, can you provide a summary comment here? 'Cause
I'm just about to finish. Parts of this speech are excerpts from a symposium that was convened at San Francisco, California in November 2018 to share insights on how understanding culture, nature, interlinkages on many landscapes and waterscapes can shape.
Please.
I'm about to
You have a
finish
last
this.
sentence?
Okay.
Please.
The fact is that there is such a small community of less than 10 permanent residents in mile-long downtown, and that must sound alarm to take the matter seriously if this board meeting is aiming to revitalize Hot Springs.
Thank you.
That's all.
We have any questions of the speaker? Sir, you came a few weeks ago when we addressed this. You're an architect?
Yes.
And your wife is she a school teacher?
She's a school teacher and she's a
Lake-
mathematician.
At Lakeside, right?
In Hot Springs High.
Hot Springs High, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That completes those who have signed up to speak on this. We'll have discussion amongst directors at this time. Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to offer an amendment due to the fact that the board has not been able to adopt fees for the downtown residents. I move to hold in abeyance the parking fees for the downtown residents for 2025 and for the between now and the time that the budget, and hopefully before then, is brought to the board, that work be done with the owners and lessees for coming with a acceptable payment plan for fees in the downtown area. But I move to hold in abeyance the parking fees for 2025 for downtown residents.
Okay, I'm sorry, got a question on that. So there are fees in the ordinance. When you say hold them in abeyance.
Sections 3 and 4 that list the fees, that I move that this is for 2025, and before we adopt a 2026 budget, that a plan be brought to us after meeting with the downtown residents, leases, leasers, and the owners, because they've already entered into their leases.
Yes, ma'am. You asked that they be held in abeyance.
Okay.
What fee?
What is the
what fee do you want to hold in abeyance? The fee that appears in the ordinance as written?
in zero fee for sections 3 and 4.
Okay, so what you're saying is zero fee, come up with a fee by 2026?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have a motion. Is
Second.
We got a second by Director Beard. Discussion.
I have a question, and it may be for Lance. If we were to do this regardless of a zero fee or any fee, the residents would still need to somehow be registered in this system. They would just be registered as eligible parkers in a particular area without us collecting fees, just to make sure our residents know what are expected of them.
I mean, if there is a zero fee, we would still need a residential parking permit to issue them at $0, and they would in fact need to have their license entered into for the system for that permit to be issued, for it to flag with the LPRs so that it shows as not being out of zone. There's a myriad of things, but you would need the residential parking permit. Zero fee, you can do that, but yes, the simple answer is they would need to enter their license in for that residential parking permit.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to vote against the motion. You know, I've been very consistent on this item as it relates to our downtown employees. Our downtown employees, we have a 75% discount, so they're paying 25 cents an hour. I've already done the math for you. If they work 2,080 hours or so, the cost is around $520. I know there's two numbers in here, so I've been fairly consistent. You know, the downtown, those who reside downtown ought not to spend less than employees. We have professionals who live downtown. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hospitality employees who make a lot less than these professionals who are saying they can't afford this. But yet we're having our wait staff, our housekeeping staff, you know, hospitality staff having to pay. You know, they too came downtown to work, and then this program was being introduced, and we recognize that, you know, and so through, I guess, no fault of their own, they're accepting of a 25 cent per hour fee during the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 6 days a week. So I've been very, very consistent on my position here, and I will not support anything that allows another class of individuals to pay less than the hospitality employees, those who work downtown. Thank you. Other comments? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I support us not injecting any type of fee for the residents downtown for 2025. And, you know, in my opinion, if we've got a measurability concern as far as how much employees are paying versus how much the residents downtown are paying, I would almost want to move that employees not pay any fee at all to park as well. I would support that, because I do think employees are just as important as our residents here in Hot Springs. And if it's a concern for us as to what potential disparity might come along between the two parking fee plans, why not just allow employees to park for free?
I'd support that also.
Remember, the ultimate goal here isn't to gouge anybody, but is to allow a stream of revenue so that we can put forth a revenue bond and build an additional parking deck. So, any other comments?
Yeah.
Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll come right back to you.
This is a question, I think, for Lance. Lance, where is the secondary parking primarily for these people who live downtown? I know where the primary parking is, but where's the secondary parking?
Secondary, you have Canyon Street, then you have really some of those off Central Exchange Street parking garage, Exchange Street, Hill Wheatley Plaza, Bridge Street lot, generally parking lots and anything that would not be immediately off of Central Avenue. So that's kind of why I think whenever we drafted this particular resident parking program, it dealt with those areas that really had no side streets, if you will. Has no Spring Street, has no Reserve Street. This particular section we're talking about, it's got North Mountain and West Mountain on the back side of Central Avenue. So that was kind of the idea behind this particular geographical location.
So secondary parking for most of those people is not really convenient.
It's a good ways away. Yeah, you would not carry your groceries that far.
And we've already heard about concerns for safety, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Beard?
Yes, I have to consider the people that are already in a lease, even though, professional, so people need to be able to consider their budgets in advance. So if we're going to make, if they're going to not have to pay for parking this year, I think that should also carry over to the employees as well, because the tourists or the people that are going to be paying the high parking fees, we're not talking about a lot of people that we're asking to not have to pay for parking.
Director Holliday?
Thank you. I did want to bring up, and probably should have earlier, I spoke with one of the downtown residents, Josh Stewart. He was here last time. I actually spoke twice, if you remember. He's a musician downtown, and he just asked that I reiterate on his behalf the sentiments he made before about being against the parking fees, that he doesn't fall into this category of necessarily a professional household. And I mean, no disrespect to him as a professional musician, but he was very clear about his personal budget and that he has a roommate, and that his living situation, if he had parking fees imposed, he would need to find other housing when his lease was up. However, that's not for several months. So it kind of goes into this conversation about having a fixed budget. And so I'm in favor of the temporary abeyance. However, I also agree with the mayor that, this is a matter of kind of a growing pain and getting everybody to the same place in a managed way. I don't want anyone to have to not be able to afford their groceries so they can park somewhere. And then, I think if we choose to revisit in the future, the residents and the employees, again, that's fine. However, for today, I think having some space and some breathing room for people who already have a fixed budget and are stuck in a contract, I think is fair. But long-term, I do think we need to find a solution that is fair for both the residents and the employees, because I think both of those voices are equal in this conversation. It's very different than a tourist or a visitor.
Director Dobbs-Smith?
For more than 35 years, and my business started downtown, we've had three things about parking. One, there's not enough. People complain there's not enough parking. They don't go downtown because there's not enough parking. Part of the main reason that we implemented this program was to create more parking. That way we can build another parking structure. So that's the first thing that I've heard over and over. The second thing is I've heard over and over and over, employees park in front of the businesses, they take up the spaces, they don't turn, and so we need to do something to turn those. I haven't heard, maybe they're here, but I haven't heard any employees today in the audience say that they were unhappy that they could not find a way to afford the parking. Maybe they're just not here tonight, but I haven't heard them. But the third thing was that we've heard over and over, every study we've done for my 35 years around downtown, is that we need people to live downtown. That's part of what makes a downtown vibrant. That's part of what keeps the shops going when the tourists aren't here and the locals aren't parking. And I think if we make any concessions, it does need to be made for our locals. Now, if the people who live there, now if we have a huge high-rise go online, then we may have to revisit this. They'll have to, maybe we need to put into the parking plan that they need to provide parking for those. Maybe that's part of planning, I don't know. But those are the three things that I've heard repeatedly for as long as I've been around here. Thank you.
Any additional comments from board members? Okay, so let's review where we're at with the amendment that has been offered by Director Garcia and seconded.
There will be no fee charged for residential parking. Bear in mind, we have the previous amendment where you have one in primary, one in secondary, but no fee for either zone for the duration of 2025, with the expectation that 2026 staff will bring forward a new fee for the board's consideration.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So Brian, as it relates to what you just shared with us, in between now and 2026 is when, based upon Director Garcia's motion for abeyance, that there will be meetings between the property owners there. I don't think I remember her saying it. Maybe she did, but could that also include the current tenants and residents when these
Leasers and.
leasees and leasers? Okay, I wasn't sure that I heard you say that or not. I think I figured you probably did, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I just want to make sure that
Well,
they're all there.
I'm not taking that as part
Right,
of the
right,
motion,
right.
but yes.
But this vote would have some impact on that happening too. That's why I'm bringing it
I
up.
would expect that this board will hold the feet to the fire.
Yes, thank you.
Everybody know what we're voting on? This is, we're voting on the motion to amend, okay? Please call the roll.
Director Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
No.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
No, the motion to amend is approved. Now we're gonna,
Mayor, you have your original ordinance as amended
As
twice. If there are other amendments that need to be proffered, you could have discussion on those. If not, we could wrap this one up.
let's try to wrap it up. Go ahead, call the roll.
Director-
This is the motion as amended, which was just approved, you know, where there is no fee for the downtown residents through 2025. Right?
Okay.
Yes.
260 and 130 stay.
Part?
The 260 and 130 stay.
No, no.
They go to zero.
Okay. They go to zero. There is no fee for
The balance of 2025.
for these two permits. One can be primary, one can be secondary.
Mayor, so
Webb.
to clarify, part 3, part 4, there's zero, right?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's why I asked for the clarification earlier. It's not as though if we don't come up with something else, January 1, 2026, it becomes 260 and 130.
We will come up with something
It
between
is
now and
zero.
then. Okay.
Please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
No.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
No. Motion is approved. that was a ordinance has been adopted as amended. Moving on to new business, we'll consider resolution R-25-22 and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-25-22, a resolution awarding a bid to Square One Enterprises Corporation for Phase 1 of the 2024 Waterline Improvement Project. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Director Trustee, seconded by?
Second.
Director Webb. And staff report will be provided by Mr. Todd Pillar. Welcome, Engineering Project Manager. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Mine will be short and brief. This is our annual contract where we upgrade our water mains, add isolation valves, and we add fire hydrants in the city streets. And we took bids on January 13th, and Square One Enterprise was the low bidder, or low responsive bidder of the two bids we received. And their total bid was $1,469,316. And these streets, I say streets, where we're going to do the main work, we try to stay in front of the sidewalk and paving program. So this may not be the right order. We'll do it according to them, but Winona Street, Miller, Exchange Street, Tri-Vista Right, 2nd Street, and Whittington Avenue. And these are all not bond money, these are all board-approved CIP funds out of the water distribution account.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Pillar? Director Holliday?
Thanks. I have a quick question. I know you said that we do try to stay in front of sidewalk and paving projects. However, almost the entirety of Whittington is all new. So
Yeah.
what does that look like? I mean, are these the water mains that go the extent of Whittington or just the first few blocks?
No, we need to make a loop between Cedar Street and Pine Street.
Okay.
We own the property on the south side of Whittington, so we won't be in the
Travel lane.
travel lane of Whittington.
Okay.
But yeah, we need to make that loop.
Okay. Just curious, because I'll get asked that tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any additional questions of Mr. Pillar? Thank you. Did we have anybody sign up?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. Okay, discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia. Garcia. Director Garcia. Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Moving on to consider resolution R-25-23. And entertain a
I'll just read that one.
you.
I'll read it for you,
Yeah,
Mayor.
thank you.
A
Please.
resolution R-25-23, a resolution approving the application of James Smith doing business as VIP Transportation of Hot Springs, Inc., for a charter service transportation permit. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion
moved.
to adopt. Director Trustee, seconded by Director Webb, and the staff report will be provided by City Clerk, Miss Harmony Morrissey.
Thank you. I'll make this brief. The applicant is Mr. James Smith, who's been operating modified mobile under a paratransit permit since March of 2018. On December 30th of 2024, he applied for a charter permit and requested to license up to 6 vehicles doing business as VIP Transportation of Hot Springs. His plan is to begin with the operation of 2 vehicles, but potentially increase as business expands. The vehicles that would be operated under VIP Transportation as charters will not be the same vehicles that are operating under modified mobile. On January 13th, the Transportation Advisory Committee held a public hearing and voted 5-0 to recommend approval of Mr. Smith's permit. The code does set forth the permit review procedure and the factors to be considered by the Transportation Advisory Committee when making the recommendation, and by you, the Board of Directors, when making the final determination. Those are included in your packet. The Transportation Advisory Committee has recommended approval of the permit and now asks for you to consider that.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Morrissey? Anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir. We do have the applicant here if you have any questions of him, though.
Any questions of the applicant by the directors?
I want to know why he didn't come up and talk to us we were talking about the buses earlier.
Tell us what you got.
Hey, I'm James Smith. My address is 150 East Glazy Pole Road, Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. So what we're looking at doing is offering a transport service for locals and visitors to the city of Hot Springs. And we've got 2 reliable, clean vehicles. My drivers will follow a dress code, strictly enforced. I just don't agree with the cab company wearing tennis shoes, blue jeans, hoodies, and ball caps. I think that's pretty tacky, to be honest. But we will enforce a dress code. So, thank you for your time.
Any questions of Mr. Smith? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our next item of business is to consider Resolution R-25-24 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-25-24, a resolution approving an agreement with BSNA Software LLC for financial management software and authorizing a budget amendment. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt,
So
Director
moved.
Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs Smith. And the staff report will be provided by Finance Director, Ms. Karen Scott. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening. The City of Hot Springs released a request for proposals that was number HS24082 for the awarding of a contract to replace our current fiscal management software. The proposals were to include a plan to replace all software. Currently, we use New World Systems, which is a Tyler Technologies product. The proposals were to include an all-encompassing product to serve many functions, including general ledger, accounts payable, cash receipts, accounts receivable, purchasing, fixed assets, utility billing, inventory management and work orders, payroll, human resources, building and planning department, and business licenses. We received 5 responses which were rated and ranked. The vendor receiving the highest score is BSNA Software, a firm located in Bath, Michigan, who has over 2,500 customers, all of which are municipalities, that's counties and cities. This will be a cloud-hosted solution, will include portals for customers to utilize for online transactions for utility billing, building and planning department transactions such as building permits and business licenses. Staff recommends awarding a contract to BSNA Software for the turnkey installation and conversion of new financial software in the amount of $726,740. A notice of intent to award has been issued and no protests have been received. The budget impact is actually $526,740. Although the contract price is $726,740, the 2025 budget already includes $200,000 budgeted for this purpose, $100,000 in the planning department budget and $100,000 in the utility administration budget. There is a cost proposal and the budget amount needed by department included in your packets. Payments will be made in 2025 and 2026, along with the implementation schedule, which is expected to be approximately 18 months. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Scott? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Karen, will any of this be able to be capitalized, these costs that we're incurring up front, and spread out over 5 years or whatever the useful term is?
So there is a new GASB standard, and that will require the actual software to be capitalized
Okay.
over 5 years.
Okay. And about how much is that of this total 726,000? That's just the
The actual-
180, 665?
The actual software is 180,000, but there are other costs that can be included in the capitalization, such as implementation. The pre-planning cannot be capitalized.
Okay. So while it will be a cash out, it will be a partially capital asset purchase and be expensed over 5 years?
Correct, and
Okay.
over several budgets.
Okay, great, thank you.
Director Holliday?
Thank you. This is more about kind of customer use. I know the last time that we changed software specifically to utility billing, there were a lot of people, including myself, who had their bills drafted, and then, that went away, and it was actually kind of cumbersome to get back into the system. So I know you said you have some experience with this particular company. One, will that information need to be put back in by the customers? And then, what is your experience with that specific process for our customers?
So when we converted in North Little Rock, we did not actually convert utility billing. There will be probably 3 to 4 months of what we call discovery meetings, where they will be here meeting with the different departments, and we will, the utility billing department will spend a large amount of time with them discussing that process for how that conversion will take place. And honestly, I'm not sure, Director Holliday, how that will work on the customer side, but we will find out and obviously communicate as much as possible. I don't know how much we will be able to convert data from one system to the other, to the new system that would kind of, diminish any of those types of activities on the customers. I don't know that right now.
Okay. Well, I do know last time we had a pretty lengthy grace period. We weren't running around shutting off people's water who had been drafted before and maybe just had not gone into the new system. I'm sure we'll do that as well. But just as we get closer, the more we know, so we can communicate with residents on what the expectations are, and to make sure that people do log in as soon as possible and get moved over. So,
Of course.
thank you.
And I failed to mention, we are planning to convert the building department, planning department, and business licenses in 2025, and the rest of the conversion will take place in 2026, so that we can alleviate concerns that those departments already have with, frankly, the lack of functionality in the current software.
Any questions of Ms. Karen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Can't imagine. Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Moving on to consider Resolution R-25-25, and I'll ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-25-25, a resolution amending Resolution 9747 and adopting a policy and procedure for the appointment of members of the Hot Springs Board of Directors to the Advertising and Promotion Commission pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated Section 26-75-605. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Garcia.
Second.
Seconded by Director Trustee, and our staff report will be provided by City Attorney.
Thank
Mr.
you, Mayor.
Brian Albright.
Thank you, Mayor. The state law that was referenced in the title and ordinances of the City of Hot Springs provide that 2 members of the Board of Directors serve on the A&P Commission, and that those 2 members of the board are selected by the governing body, the board, to serve at the will of the board. We've previously had Resolution 9497 that was passed in 2021 that established your current procedure for appointment of board members to the A&P Commission. After our process earlier this year kind of failed, you had a work session last week that included a discussion on bringing forward an amendment to that procedure. So the amendment that you'll see in your proposed resolution under Section 1, Paragraph A does not change. Paragraph B is where the changes are. Paragraph C does not change. So this process would begin similar to your previous. The Board of Directors would set a special called meeting for the purpose of conducting interviews with the applicants. Following the interviews, anonymous preference forms depicting the names of the applicants will be provided to the board members present, who shall mark their individual preference and submit same to the city clerk or otherwise assigned staff, who shall tally the preferences and report the name of the applicants with the highest number of marked preference forms to the mayor. In the event that there is a tie, the highest number of marked preference forms, the board members present shall mark a second round of preference forms limited to the applicants subject to the tie and submit same to the city clerk or otherwise designated staff, who shall tally the preferences and report the names of the applicants with the highest number of marked preference forms to the mayor. In the event of another tie, we'll proceed on with that process until there is not a tie. The difference being in this one is you will eliminate it down as opposed to the current process, which is to remain in executive session with only those members who are not up for nomination of the appointment. After that happens, just as before, the city clerk will cause to be prepared a resolution for board confirmation of the selected nominee pursuant to this policy, and then the resolution will come to you at your next regular meeting for your consideration. Be happy to entertain any questions that you might have. This doesn't have anything to do with what the terms are. This just has to do with filling a vacancy. Currently, you have one vacancy. Director Holliday's term has expired at the end of the year, so you have a vacancy that needs to be filled, and so that's what brought us to this point.
Any questions of Mr. Albright? This is, again, just a change in process, and as he's indicated, we'll all stay out here. We won't have to go to executive session, and we'll keep voting until something happens, I guess. I mean, as I indicated during the work session, we could still end up with a tie. And,
Well,
so.
assuming that you have an odd number of board
Yeah,
members here,
correct.
you will not.
At some point, that will work itself out.
Yeah. So we have a number of people who have signed up to speak on this. We'll begin with Mr. Elmer Beard. Would you like to come up? And please remember that we do have a 3-minute time limit, so
I'll
please.
try to remember that we have a 3-minute time limit.
Thank you.
I'm Elmer Beard, 202 Henry Street, Hot Spring National Park, Arkansas. Regarding the permanency of a representative from District 2 on the A&P Commission, it has nothing to do with the present commissioner. It's about the successor. It's about the future of District 2. The A&P representative from the Board of Directors, according to what happened in 1980 by word of mouth, a man word I've read somewhere it's his bond, that position is to always be a representative, a member of the Board of Directors from District 2. Please, brothers and sisters, let us keep our word and let us be permanent about keeping that position open for a representative from District 2, regardless to who sits in that seat now. It does not belong to that person. So don't bother about having to be bothered with that person for a very long time. It's for the district. It's not for that person. It's about geography. The grounds are hallowed ground. People lost their properties for the extension of that great extension of the convention center. I was there. It was decades ago. And it was a serious matter. We've done a great thing by extending the convention center. We should keep our word. Those grounds are holy ground. People lost their property simply by the terms eminent domain. No way could have kept it. It was going to be taken. So they sold it and they skipped and made permanent residence some other place. Again, brothers and sisters, let's don't forget that. Whoever holds that position tomorrow, meaning days and weeks and months and years from now, should be a representative of District 2. Has nothing, second or third time, to do with the present office holder. Please give that consideration. Although that was some 30 years ago, and there's a tendency for this great board that I have the highest respect for to disband, to disdain that action, I have more respect for you than that. You wouldn't do that. You just wouldn't do it. You're God-fearing people. I've heard you say it. You respect order. You respect the man's word or woman's word. And I want you to know I appreciate you and I love you and I'll keep you in my prayer that you'll do the right thing. Do you have any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Beard? Thank you.
I've got a question.
Right
Go
here.
ahead. Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Beard, thank you for your comments. We had to redistrict just a few years ago. What if the situation arises that the convention center is not in District 2 any longer?
The ground is still holy. The people who gave up their property remains a fact that they gave it up. Regardless to geographical and the political roles that we play, and this is not the duty of anybody around this table in this room, it's for the Garland County Election Commission to decide that.
That's right.
That's correct.
That's right.
So if he redraws some line and puts it in District 8 or 10 or 1, it still remains for the people in the biological, geographical area. Doesn't matter what the number of the district is. It has nothing to do with that.
So should their representative be on the A&P Commission?
No.
Okay.
It'll be for the people from the holy ground that gave up their property.
Why are you calling it holy ground?
Because it was ground that they had their residence on. That's why I call it holy ground.
Okay.
But they sold. They gave it up.
They sold it, right?
They sold it.
Okay.
Yeah, they sold it as a result of it being by eminent domain, and they didn't know what that meant at that time. They would have had to have given it up.
Okay.
They wouldn't have had a choice. They would have been kicked out. I've seen this over the decades.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Mr. Albright, did we exercise eminent domain?
I'm not aware of any eminent
Okay.
domain proceedings.
All of that was oral, just like the oral contract.
Thank you.
That's why we want to get it in ink tonight.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
thank
Mr.
you.
Beard.
Thank you.
Miss-
I would like to point out for the board, though, Mayor, what.
We have a process is what
You
we're.
have, you have applicants for one open, thank you, Mr. Beard. You have applicants for one open position. That's Director Holliday, Director Garcia, Director Trustee. The other position is not vacant. Director Beard, you're still there.
Well, I won't be here forever.
Yeah. Well, let's move on the list here. Mr. Tyler Draper, please come forward and restate your name, address, and district, please.
Tyler Draper, District 5. I grew up in District 2. When this bond issue, or sorry, I shouldn't say bond issue, when this issue was passed, there was an understanding, even Eric Jackson, the CEO of Oaklawn, mentioned this in the paper. There was an understanding that District 2 would have their person, their representative. District 2 gave up a lot by giving up the property around the convention center, and it's been a great thing for Hot Springs. We've had a lot of events. The AMP's made a lot of money. But I want you to ask yourself this about District 2. Do we have a community pool there anymore? Do we have a Boys and Girls Club there anymore? Where's that money going? All that money that these tourists bring into this town. We need to be asking ourselves, do we have a representative of that area that's going to make sure that money is put back into that district? Because when I drive through that district, I don't see a Boys and Girls Club. I don't see a community center. And every time I come to these board meetings, it's always that district that y'all are knocking houses down. So really think about that when you think about who should be the rightful person over that district. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Draper? Thank you. Reverend Billy Blackman, let's come forward and restate your name and address, please. District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to this distinguished board. I don't know what was said 30 years ago, but I do know in the sense of fairness that should be a representative assured that would come from District 2. My reason being is that, as Brother Beard has so adequately stated, it was holy ground, holy into the fact that they gave up properties, sometime unwilling and sometime not understanding all of the wordings of things that would be done. But I was told, and I do respect those who told me, that we were assured that there would be somebody in District 2 to serve in preceding terms, or rather, terms after. So all I'm asking tonight is that in your consideration, and what a more appropriate time than February, Black History Month, is that you would consider that it was said in good response with the mind of future as well, that District 2 will remain, there will be no extension of districts to move it out, but that we would keep it and remember our word. I stand and believe that your word is your bond. If you tell me a lie, I don't believe you anymore. And so I'm asking, please, for the sense of fairness and for the keeping of word that is not written, that we put it in writing, that it might be known, as Ms. Bird has indicated, she won't be here. We don't know if any of us will be here for a while, but at the same token, please do what's right, do what has been said. This was not something that was fabricated in recent time. This was something that has been in at least the black community, that we will be assured that we would have voice in future times as well. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you. Reverend Doug Jones, please come forward, restate your name, address, and district, please.
Douglas Jones, 409 11th Street, District 2. 1995, I was a kid. I remember the town hall meeting that we had in this city. My father canceled church because this was an immediate situation. That we gather in the sanctuary of Visitors Chapel AME Church. Max capacity. Representative from the city came there, told us that we would have some type of solidarity or workmanship between our district and that. Let's talk about what was lost that day. I learned how to swim at the Webb Center because my parents didn't have a swimming pool at our house. I learned how to play basketball over in that same area. And I had my first fight over there too. It was community, real community. And my father told me this. At the age of 13, you have two things, your name and your word. You don't want to mess up neither one of them. That day, someone from the city gave us their word that we would have representation in what goes on in this particular area and the extension of the Civic Center. It is fact that we've made millions on millions of dollars. And we have not gotten all of that we need to get back in return. You have two things, Hot Springs, your name and your word.
Thank you. Cheryl Batts, please come forward and restate your name and address, please, and district.
Good evening. Cheryl Batts, Executive Director for Phoebe 125 Oak Street. I remember the meeting that Doug Jones just spoke of. I was in that meeting. And I too believe that we all sit on a precipice where we can move forward in a powerful way, in a way that many have not been able to move forward before. I stand in agreement that District 2 needs to have a special representative because there are special ideas and special things that happen in District 2 that unless you have the history and the understanding, you will not fight for it. I say to you that people who are part of the NP commissions are owners of hotels, restaurants, or an attraction. I submit to you today that District 2 has the most powerful attraction that has not been dealt with in the 30 years that I have been here and the last 17 that I have been working in history. There are $109 billion on leisure travel pre-COVID. And that's black travelers in the United States spent over a year's period of time. Their night stays, spending patterns, and preferred experiences, such as museums, historic districts, and cultural tours, indicate a strong desire to engage deeply with African American heritage. So our research indicates there's an impact on preservation, on community development. There is, with the National Trust for Historic Preservation tests and research information that shows that communities that actively preserve and promote African American history see increased foot traffic, economic stability, and investment in infrastructure, which ultimately supports community resilience. Black Travel Alliance advocates for inclusive representation and showcases the significant spending of black travelers. The only reason that we continue to mention heritage tourism is not because we're calling on the black card. It is because it is ultimately financially feasible for us as a community to join together and deal with what we already have. We don't have to build anything else to make 22, what did he say on last Thursday, that Hot Springs was $22 million. Well, what if we took $109 billion, took 10% of that, broke that down by 50%, and did 3% of the Hot Springs tax, Hot Springs advertising promotion tax on that? How much more would District 2 be able to do for itself and for our community as a whole? There's $120 billion annually, emphasizing significant influence in the industry. The intersection of tourism, culture, heritage, and black history is reshaping the travel industry. Travelers are increasingly looking for meaningful experiences, and I say to you that District 2 has all of that and some, and that we need to be represented. We need to be represented. We need to have people who are willing to work with District 2 representative and others that have filled this room tonight to create a feasible plan so that we can go forward, and that 2025 will look so much different than 2024. We're small enough to do it because we know each other. I thank you.
Thank you. Former City Director Elijah Harris.
Is there someone else? Oh, I thought you asked me a question. My hearing aid is off.
Mayor and members of the Board of Directors, I'd just like to say that whenever we do give our word to say something, that we're going to do it, then we should do it. It doesn't matter if you were not on the board at that particular time. It was made, that suggestion was made by a representative of the city of Hot Springs. And you are representing the city of Hot Springs. You are representing all the residents of the city of Hot Springs. And so District 2 should have a representative on the Advertising Promotion Committee, simply because we are looking for inclusion in all things that have to do with the city, that have to do with the people that live here in the city of Hot Springs. Hot Springs is a wonderful city. We are a tourist town. We encourage tours. We need to continue to encourage all sorts of tours. I believe that when I gave my word, when I was on the board of directors, that I could follow it up and said I did what I said I was going to do.
Thank you. And I'm going to apologize before I pronounce this last name. Emilia Ottavale? Anybody even close to that name? Okay, so that can, pardon? Emilia was the first name. Okay, thank you. Discussion amongst directors? Director Beard?
Yes, and, were you gonna say something? Do you want to say something?
I'm on the list at the bottom.
Pardon? No, I got, that was Director Harris.
Oh, his last name is Harris, also the one, that was Elijah, and I think.
Oh,
he
is there an
probably called
Albert
him-
Harris?
Yeah, that, I
Please
think it
come
was
forward.
Albert and not, yeah, he
Please
looked a
come
little-
forward. I thought Elijah didn't put his, I thought it was maybe Albert E. Elijah. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Good evening, Board, Mayor, City Manager, I guess City Attorney, and definitely my Director, the Honorable Beard. One of the things that it's been a recurring theme that you heard, basically, it all comes down to integrity. Do you have integrity, or do you not have integrity? Integrity means something to me. When I worked as a lieutenant colonel before I retired in the Pentagon, integrity was something I had to demonstrate and live every day in the Pentagon. When I left there, I worked in the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency in DC. Reached the highest levels with a top secret clearance, SCI, compartmented access, highest level of federal clearance in intelligence. Integrity means something to me. When I left there, finished even my second master's degree from Mizzou, if anybody ever heard of that little school. In finance, as financial advisors, they stressed to us that we had to demonstrate and show integrity when we were dealing with people's money, their investments, and their retirement. Critical. The main thing that I wanted to get across today is that the District 2 director needs to have and retain and maintain that seat on the A&P Commission. When you have given, or some people that are still here were part of that decision and were there and know that that promise was made, that that seat would be given to the District 2 director. That should happen, and I think it should be in writing, so that moving forward, whoever is in that seat, it's already known that they retain that seat. I grew up in that community also. We have maintained support for the convention center. One of the most important events that we have in our community is the Martin Luther King Breakfast. We have that at the convention center. That's where we celebrate someone who marched, preached, and died so that our community could be shown respect, fairness, and some type of respect, fairness, and loyalty. So that's why it's important for us. We support the convention center as well as we have given up a lot. I know my time is up. There's one thing that was brought up that I think should be mentioned. I just wanted to say that redlining is an issue, okay? And if our community, portions of the important pieces of land and property, whether it be the convention center or library, start getting carved out of District 2, that's an issue. Redlining, as well as it takes a form of gerrymandering, that's an issue. So since that was brought up, I thought I would just address that also. Questions? Any questions for me?
Thank you. All right, discussion amongst directors. Director Beard?
Yes, in light of all the public commentary, I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution by inserting a line after the first sentence, updating the second paragraph under section 1. It would read, "Position 2 of the Board of Directors on the AMP Commission shall be permanently reserved for the city director or elected representative who serves District 2, or should the lines be redrawn, the neighborhood where the land was acquired for the convention center expansion. Whenever a vacancy for position 1 of the Board of Directors on the commission shall occur by expiration of a term of office or otherwise, the procedure for filling such a vacancy shall be as follows," and then it would just pick up.
And where is that going to be placed in this resolution? Or,
A line after the first sentence, updating the second paragraph under section 1. So the second paragraph is. wait,
you're
section
talking
1.
about section 1?
Yes.
And, okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Garcia seconded. Discussion.
I have some questions.
Director Holliday?
And this may be for either the city attorney or city clerk. I know that we're discussing the procedure at the moment. However, is this not something that should actually be in the members section as opposed to the process section?
Yes, I mean, if we were to do something like this, I would prefer for codification purposes that it be under 5-2-1.1. A2, where it states 2 members of the commission shall be members of the governing body of the city and selected by the governing body, one of which shall be District 2.
Right, and that's not what we're doing on this item, correct?
it's
Yeah,
not.
because I want to make sure that if this is something the board wants to go through with, that it's actually where it should be, so we don't have some inconsistent language in the code. I'm not sure that where that leaves us on this particular amendment, but that's a concern I have.
I mean, that certainly could be brought back at the next agenda meeting. This is a process. This isn't prescriptive. This is a process.
Well, while we were talking about the process, I wanted us to do it now. I did ask for this to be placed on the agenda, and it was taken off.
Well, right now, we're on process.
Well, this is a process. This is what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the policy and procedure for the appointment of the members of the Hot Springs Board of Directors, Advertising and Promotion Commission. And it says members here, so that's plural, 1 and 2.
Yeah, but as the city attorney indicated, there's a whole nother section dealing with the members. This is just how they're
Okay,
appointed.
again, I asked this to be placed on the agenda, and you took it off, Mayor. You took it off.
I took it off?
Yeah, because I asked you, here, I'll read you my statement. I initially asked this to be placed on the agenda. Bill, I went to you Friday, and you told me that it would be a resolution. And then when I asked you if we were going to vote on this Tuesday, you said yes. And then I asked you yesterday when I came back in here, and then I was told that the mayor didn't want it on the agenda. So just imagine my surprise when you said you were responsible for deciding which items make the agenda when city directors ask how we could introduce items for board approval. It's difficult to find you as transparent when this happens. It gives the impression that you add things that benefit you. When I try to get things added to benefit the people, whether it's air conditioners, there seems to be obstacles. So I did ask for this because we are already talking about this issue, and I don't want it to be the end of my term and nothing has been done on this.
Well, the agenda was set on Tuesday, and you're making reference to some conversation that occurred after that, so. I don't.
Today is Tuesday. The agenda, we got this packet on Friday.
The agenda was set last Tuesday.
It goes out Thursday afternoon.
Okay. But I did ask. I did ask for this to be placed. Bill, do you remember when I came into the office?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And that's where we had the discussion at the agenda meeting last Tuesday about the process, because I had another, board member that wanted something on there. And we've kind of strayed away from how we get things on the agenda. That's what the discussion was last Tuesday, and how we would go about in the future getting things onto an agenda. As the board started discussing your items that was on the agenda, what I said to you was it's the mayor's agenda. When you asked me why your specific item wasn't on there, I said this is the mayor's agenda. Once I present and come in on that Tuesday, it's now the board.
Well,
the board sets your agenda.
Right. I understand that you're in the middle, but, as what people brought up today, District 2, I've struggled for things that need attention, like whether it being the air conditioning. I mean, I struggled with that, getting the proper attention that it needed. And then also the landlord summit, I know that we're currently working on that and waiting for people to respond so that we can schedule that as a date. But I didn't really feel that was important. So I bring this up and I'm sitting here like, hello, District 2 needs attention to items that are very important, and I mean, just understand. Look at what's happening, in my district.
Well, I don't think there's one item that we addressed in 2024 that had more time and attention than the air conditioning in the Greenbrier complex. I mean, we spent enormous amount of time on that. There was no roadblock for anything as related to that. In fact, we formed some landlord tenant committees that met on the very issue and came to some resolution, and that was brought forward to the board for action. So,
well, when
we have a process where every other Tuesday, I guess we meet on the 1st and 3rd, and so the Tuesday prior to the 1st and 3rd, we have an agenda meeting.
Well, the comment that I was going to make about the air conditioning and the obstacles was, people came here at a point where they wanted to share, and this is getting off topic, of course, but, when people come here to speak about the air conditioners and they were not allowed to do that's just one example of what I'm talking about.
And with that, we changed our procedure to where if an item was pulled from the agenda, that those same individuals would have the opportunity to speak. Everybody who signed up could speak under the public comment section, and without limitation of 7. So if 20 people signed up to speak during the board and that item was pulled, then they were allowed to come under a public comment. So there was some improvement in our processes as a result of that.
Oh, I'm glad I'm here, Mayor.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding this issue and this amendment, clearly some comments at last week's agenda meeting and the information that was shared with the community in the newspaper has raised concern that questions trust of residents with the board. So what is the proper procedure now regarding this amendment, since you identified it should be in section 5.2?
I would just point it out that, let me pull up that provision again.
Are you saying 5, that section can't be addressed in moving the amendment to there?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with amending it where it needs to be amended is it's an ordinance. You can't amend an ordinance with a resolution. So if that's the consensus of the board, that you want that to come back, it needs to come back as an ordinance.
So are you telling us that it's not proper to include that in the process?
I'm saying that it was, it's difficult to fit that in where it's been suggested. I mean, you can change that with one clause in 5-2-1.1. It states that they're hereby created the City of Hot Springs Advertising and Promotion Commission, which is comprised of 7 members as follows. 4 members, which shall be in tourism and restaurants. 2 members of the commission shall be members of the governing body of the city and selected by the governing body, one of which shall be District 2, if that's what the board wants to do. That's the place to do it, in my opinion.
So if it was adopted in where it's made now, then both would have to be amended or changed if you took it to the ordinance.
I'm saying that you can't change 5-2-1.1
That's what I
with a
wanted
resolution.
to know.
Right.
So that would have to, or would that be included on the next agenda?
Well, we can certainly bring it up and have
So she
it
said
worded.
it's your agenda.
Yeah, because it's improper in this resolution. It's not appropriate.
So about the inappropriate, is that, it's going to be on the February agenda? I mean, let me see. Is that going to be the February 11th agenda? Oh, sorry, that's March.
We're on February 4th right now.
18th. I
How
was
many-
on March, excuse me.
The 18th.
I did make
The
a
11th.
mistake. So the
11th is the next agenda meeting.
Oh, actually, it is the
Be the
11th.
18th.
Okay, so on the February 11th agenda, then that's when we would make this amendment, or what you just said we were going to do?
Yeah, Brian would provide a rewrite of the appropriate ordinance with the terminology you're proposing, and he may tweak it a little bit.
Action would be on the 18th.
Yeah, but-
Action would be on the 18th.
Bear in mind, the 11th is the agenda meeting. That's when the agenda would be set, and then on the 18th is when the board would take action.
Right.
Okay.
Which, coincidentally, if you were to adopt your procedure for the other position that's going to apply and be interviewed and go through that process, then next week at a special called meeting, you would have your preferential forms submitted. We'll come up with a name, a resolution for that will be prepared, and then you will vote on that on the 18th. So that one would be resolved as well.
I'd rather put that then to the 25th, so it would be voted on March 4th, 30 days from now. On the open position. For have the special call on the 25th and not do,
Keep it up with that.
not do all of it on the 11th.
Okay.
If the board agreed, because
All right.
Okay.
Keep
So in
them
order to
separate.
move forward with this, I know we have a motion and a second. Director Beard, would you pull your second down?
Sorry.
She made the motion.
Oh, I thought you made the motion.
no.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Motion, second.
Yeah, that's right. You.
We made
would
the
you-
second to have
Will you pull your
discussion.
second down, and you pull your motion down, so we can just work on the process here, and then Brian will have an amendment to the proper ordinance regarding composition of the A&P.
So when is it going to be done?
I think we just indicated it.
I will bring it to you on the 11th.
Of February.
At the agenda meeting. You'll have it on the 11th at the agenda meeting, and action will take place on the 18th.
Of February.
of February.
2 weeks from
Okay,
today.
and we can't do it tonight because of there was an ordinance and resolution
Yeah,
together.
the creation.
Could you explain what you're going to try to do?
Please,
so-
please.
Okay, Attorney Albright, could you explain what you're trying to do for my constituents so that they understand what's going on, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So the creation of the A&P and the terms of the members of the A&P and the vacancies of the A&P were all established by an ordinance. And that ordinance says that 2 members of the commission shall be members of the governing body, that means this board of the city, and selected by the governing body, this board of the city. That is the appropriate place to state one of which shall be from District 2. The motion to amend this resolution tonight, a resolution cannot be used to change or amend an ordinance. So if we want to do that, if the board wants to do that, I'll bring that back in the form of an ordinance for you to consider. This resolution that's on your agenda for tonight is merely a procedural method for selecting the other member, if you will.
Okay. Okay, so then you could do the ordinance at the February 11th meeting, and then the action would be February 18th?
Correct.
Okay.
And as Director Garcia has suggested, assuming that you all adopt this procedure for the other position tonight, we'll hold that over until the what would you want?
It'd be, the next one would be the 25th, and action on March 4th, 30 days
So
from
we'd have
now.
a special on the 25th, action on the 4th,
And that relates only to
This,
Director,
only to the vacancy.
only to the vacancy, which Director Holliday continues to serve because there hasn't been a replacement.
Right.
Or a vote.
does that require any amendment to this process, or is we in agreement
well,
to
what-
do that? Special call on the 25th and the vote on the,
I think if we get to the point where it gets adopted, I think that's fine, we can make that work. But right now, I think we still have something on the floor in the form of an amendment.
well, I withdraw it.
It was your
she
second?
does.
Was it your second?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
In my motion,
Right.
Both withdrawn?
yes.
Anyone else
Okay.
offer a second? Okay.
No, we just, Director Garcia, Director Beard made the motion, Director Garcia, both have been withdrawn.
Okay.
I did at the same time as
Yeah.
Director Garcia, so I'll withdraw mine too.
But Director Beard, you are withdrawing the motion to amend with the understanding that an ordinance is coming next week.
Yes, with the understanding that the ordinance is coming on, is it the 25th of February? And then we would vote on it?
No,
No.
your ordinance is coming in the agenda meeting on the 11th.
Right.
Action on the 18th.
Okay. And the other one was for this seat?
The
Okay.
other one, for the vacant seat, there'll be a special called meeting for the 25th, at which you'll fill out your preferential forms. And assuming that we get someone from those forms, hopefully that we'll have an odd number here, please, then we'll prepare a resolution for the 4th to appoint that person to the commission.
Okay?
Yes.
We're all good? So right now, the second and the original motion to amend has been withdrawn. We're back to the original resolution as presented in our board packet. Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs-Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance O-25-06, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title.
So
only.
moved.
Second.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Trustee. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Please read by title.
Ordinance O-25-06, an ordinance amending the zoning map from R4 medium-high density residential to M1 light manufacturing district to C1 central business district zone district for 1.088 acres generally located at 420 Convention Boulevard, amending the future land use plan map to linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That does conclude your reading, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Staff report will be provided by Miss Kathy Selman, Director of Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Kevin Owens with Crafton Tull Engineering, representing the property owner, JDHQ Land Holding LLC. The request is for C1 Central Business District zoning for the land, which is located immediately east of Embassy Suites, and it is between Convention Boulevard and Gulfa Street. And you can see on the map, this is a rather peculiar shape land. Some of the land is in fact very, very narrow. And so the goal here is to have one zone district across the entire piece of land, the 1 acre, and thereby consolidating the requirements for any future development. The current zoning, there is R4 Suburban Residential District. This is a very small piece of this land, M1 Light Manufacturing, and some of it is already C1 Central Business District. The future land use classifications are linear commercial corridor, convenience commercial center, and residential medium high, and is in Board of Directors District Number 2. The property has approximately 250 feet of street frontage on Convention Boulevard and approximately 205 feet of street frontage on Gulfa Street. And it is adjacent to other C1 zone property at the Embassy Suites. In addition, there is R4 medium high density residential. To the north is M1 light manufacturing, and to the east is M1 light manufacturing. The C1 zone district is the central business district zone, and that zone in the code specifically says residential uses are encouraged in the district in order to utilize upper floors and to create a resident population to support the downtown area. So the possibility of residential development is not precluded by the requested change to C1. Planning Commission action on January 16, 2025. Planning Commission held a duly advertised meeting, called for testimony, and considered the record, voting 5-0 with Commissioner Gerke recusing for conflict. The recommendation to the Board of Directors is that you approve an ordinance amending the zoning map from R4 medium high density residential and M1 light manufacturing to C1 central business district zoning for 1.088 acres of land located at approximately 420 Convention Boulevard, because the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code, and it assists with implementation of an approved city plan. The ordinance also would amend the property's future land use map designation to all be linear commercial corridor, which is consistent with downtown development. That concludes the presentation.
Are you got any questions of Ms. Selman, Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Kathy, I know it's, I think you mentioned in here, yes, if rezoned to C1, it would be afforded the complete list of permanent and conditional uses.
Mhm.
Is there anything in particular that's proposed at this this point in time, is there any discussion about what might be located on this property?
No, I have had no such discussion.
Okay, I tried to access the packet and I only had 3 pages of it. And so I just wondered if there was anything mentioned in the application narrative or.
No, there is not.
Okay.
And again, the land is a very peculiar shape.
I drove by it.
And the change incorporates those 2 R4 and the M1 zones with existing C1. So it's a partial change to the land, but makes it all consistent.
Any additional questions? Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst the board? Please call the roll.
Director Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This completes the action items that were to be formally addressed today. Now we'll move to board commentary, items for discussion. Any board members have items for discussion? Director Holliday.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention specifically to the rest of the directors and any staff or anyone in the community with respect to the resource center operating as a warming shelter. If you have the opportunity to go and volunteer, like I highly recommend it. I was able to go down a couple of times. I saw lots of great people from the community, but being there with the individuals who are in crisis at that moment, who might just need a little bit of help because they can't, maybe can't afford their heat bills at the moment, has been enlightening for me and impactful for me. And so I just want to, I don't know who all has been there, but if you haven't, please consider it. Hopefully we don't have to have another one. 18 days was a lot on our lead volunteers, but if it were to come up again this winter and you're able to leave your home, definitely take a minute to hang out down there and meet some of our residents that we may not get to talk to or hear from so much. But it was a great experience, and I just want to reiterate my gratitude for the people who were willing to be there, sometimes almost 24/7 when we had snow and ice, and making sure that the most vulnerable among us were safe. So that's it. Thank you.
Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor. For my board comment, I actually want to direct a question to our city attorney, Brian, on measures that we discussed at the agenda meeting last week in regards to the way in which different agenda items get brought before the board, when that takes place, how it takes place, what that process looks like. There was some discussion of me being someone who had an item that is being considered to being brought in front of the board, and it's on an issue that was discussed, or at least discussed in board commentary in September of last year, and then again in December of last year. So I know we've had a couple of discussions. Can you share with me if and when this is coming to the board on an agenda?
Okay, well,
Or
let's
would
identify what this is.
I have it here. Do you want me just to share what I have?
Well, what's the topic?
The topic,
Okay.
yeah, the topic.
We don't need the full.
Are you talking about an STR
Yes.
license for a total and permanent disabled veteran?
This is in regards, right, to an STR licensure available for a local permanently disabled veteran
Yeah.
here in Hot Springs.
It's virtually written. It should be on your agenda for next week for your consideration.
Okay. Would it do any good to have me share what that is now? Can I? I want to, and we do have someone here who is a permanently disabled veteran, local. So little background information, nationwide.
Is this the same individual that came and spoke to us the other day?
Yes, Mayor.
The other day being.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah.
I think it was in I think it was in December. Yeah. So nationwide, the latest reports indicate that there are approximately 3.6 million service-connected permanently disabled veterans receiving 100% disability rating. That represents almost 20% of the total number of disabled veterans from the United States military forces. Disabled veterans' disabilities includes physical disabilities, mental health conditions, and other medical conditions. Oftentimes, these conditions prevent disabled veterans from obtaining and maintaining steady and fiscally reliable employment. For permanently disabled veterans, holding any type of steady employment is almost an impossibility. The Department of Veteran Affairs, also known as the VA, reports that disabled veterans have nearly double the unemployment rates than non-disabled veterans, and that the overall unemployment rate for veterans is the lowest it's been since 2019. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, about 7.64% of veterans live below the poverty line. The federal VA budget of 25 request item lines show only $188 million being requested for disability compensation mandatory benefits compared to the other line items, such as the Office of IT, which is requesting $7.6 billion. The disability compensation mandatory benefits item line is the VA's lowest requested item for 2025. The maximum monthly veteran disability compensation for a 100% disability family, this is spouse, including 2 parents, 1 child, if they qualify, is just a little over $4,000 per month. Each additional child above that one is only $103 per month, if they qualify. Those veteran disability compensations drop drastically as the percent disability number lowers. Today, here in Arkansas, there are about 180,000 veterans living here, and 38% of those are disabled. Of the 180,000 veterans in Arkansas, about 2,500 veterans are living here in Hot Springs. Of the veterans living here in Hot Springs, it is estimated that between 500 and 600 are permanently disabled veterans. STR licenses were given a maximum number of 400 license holders within the city limits of Hot Springs as the adoption of Hot Springs Code 16-10-2, and more specifically HS Code 16-10-2E. And it even states that the renewal of existing licenses shall be given priority over initial applications for new transient use sites. This means that the initial existing 400 STR license holders could maintain their STR licensure status for an indefinite period of time. That means the STR location changes might not ever take place in the city of Hot Springs. It's my recommendation for the city of Hot Springs to create and amend HS code, and this is where there could be some changes with legal advice from city staff, but to amend Hot Springs Code 16-10-2 by adding HS Code 16-10-2 in parentheses E.5 to provide short-term residential rental business licensure to local permanently disabled veterans to operate within the city limits of Hot Springs. Total number of permanent disabled veteran STR licenses should not exceed 25 per calendar year, and shall be 1 STR license per immediate family of a local permanently disabled veteran. That number 25, where that number comes from, 400 current STR licensures versus 36,000 population of Hot Springs, that's about 1%. 25 versus the 2,500 total number of veterans in Hot Springs, that's about 1%. So that's where that number comes from. To be qualified as a local permanently disabled veteran, STR applicants must meet the following criterion. Number 1, live and maintain an address in the city limits of Hot Springs. Number 2, show proof of being a United States military veteran. Number 3, show proof of receiving 100% permanent and total disability rating from the VA. And number 4, submit and receive an approval for all necessary STR paperwork as prescribed by the Hot Springs Planning Department. In closing, many American veterans leave their families travel to unfamiliar territories to face unknown and unspeakable battles, and, if they are lucky, return back to the United States. In many cases, when American veterans return back to home soil, they return carrying service-connected injuries, both physical and mental, such as loss of limbs, cancer, mental health problems, organ diseases, back injuries, and several others which result in a permanent disability. These permanent disabilities severely hinder a veteran's ability to maintain steady employment. Having this amendment to Hot Springs Code 16-10-2 to grant STR licensure to local permanently disabled veterans will give the city of Hot Springs the commendable action of giving back to veterans for all they have done for us. It will also help provide a major prevention tool to veterans to not fall below the poverty line so that they may enjoy a peaceful quality of life.
You said the individual that you're, I don't want to use the word sponsor, but this has come up. Is she here, you said?
Yes, Mayor, she's here.
And her name?
Ms. Fleming.
Can
Would
you
you like
come
her
up,
to
Ms.
speak?
Fleming? Because I want to kind of review, I might be confused with what occurred a couple months ago. This is, you have a home that has multiple bedrooms and you were wanting to lease a bedroom out, or was there?
Correct.
Correct? And you were going to continue to reside in that home?
I can.
Pardon?
I can, yes. That's the, if that's the requirement that's required, then I can. Or I can live with a family member, but the goal is to be able to rent the house out as a STR.
Oh, so there could be a possibility that you would not live in the home, you would just move to another location and have 100% of the home be available to?
I have the ability to live on the premises as well and rent it out as an STR.
Yeah. And I'm probably going to ask you a question that you may not want to answer. Did you get a VA loan to buy that home?
I did.
I don't know the terminology, is that permitted to?
I can. Yeah.
Through the VA loan?
Right, so you have to once you get a VA loan, you have to reside in your house, I believe, for a year. I want to say it's a year before you can rent it out. I've been there for 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. And the home's titled in your name?
Yes.
Okay. I was concerned with any of the loan documents that would maybe prohibit
No.
something like that.
No, I wouldn't be prohibited.
Okay. Thank you. Director Garcia?
Mayor, if there's no other comments, I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. We do have a couple individuals that signed up under public commentary. So give us a moment to kind of